Chapter 3065. There was a difference between close and distant relatives. This wasn't a sad thing, it was fine as long as one got over it. Dong Shui sighed. Old madam didn't ask you, but young Master Qi came to see you. Fu Hongqi did come to the inn to look for her, saying that he wanted to see if she needed anything. Ning Shu said she didn't need any help. When Fu Hongqi came, he brought some silver, some broken silver, and a small bag. It seemed that Fu Hongqi had saved it. When Fu Hongqi gave the money to Ning Shu stared at him. Fu Hongqi couldn't sit still and his ears turned red. Ning Shu was a little more certain now. This scholar probably liked his clients. Otherwise, he would come to the inn for no reason and wouldn't even study. The client wasn't bad-looking. Although Fu Hongqi was the heir of the marquis, his status wasn't good. He was just the son of a concubine and wouldn't inherit the title in the future. At most, he would be given a meager amount of property. If the client married Fu Hongqi, it wouldn't be considered climbing up the social ladder. Ning Shu didn't want to have any contact with the people of the marquis's household. She directly told Fu Hongqi not to come find her. Then Ning Shu changed to another inn. As for whether Fu Hongqi came to the inn to find her, she didn't know. What was so difficult about being confined by your own father? Without love, power, and title, that was called suffering. As for the third princess, Ning Shu didn't care much about her. If anything happened to her, it had nothing to do with her. Moreover, she took the client's name and didn't refuse. She took advantage of it. Now, she didn't want you to take advantage of her name and status. Since you've enjoyed glory and wealth, now that you're in trouble, you should accept it. Even if something happened to the third prince, the third princess lived a life of luxury in the marquis's household. She was carefully taken care of. Then, the third prince returned and became the empress. Then she continued to enjoy life. She must have saved the universe in her previous life to have such good fortune. Ning Shu found a house. It was the kind of house that could be used to do business. It wasn't a problem to do a small business. However, it wasn't cheap either. It cost a few hundred taels. If it was an ordinary person, they might not be able to buy it in their lifetime. It was comparable to the price of a house in modern times. Ning Shu bought it and went to the yamen to complete the paperwork. Although Dong Shui was distressed, she was very active in cleaning. After all, it was her home. With a house, she had a place to live. It was also very comfortable. These days, Dong Shui had been wandering around with Ning Shu, and her heart was a little wild. How could a lady from the boudoir casually go out like this? After tasting the taste of freedom, she did not want to be restrained. Dong Shui was happy that she didn't have to worry about other people's opinions. However, she was worried about what to eat every day and how to save money. After she became the head of the household, she felt distressed every time she spent a sum of money. Every day, the young miss would give her some money to buy vegetables and meat, as well as other necessities for the family. Dong Shui wished she could save as much as possible. She also knew that her young miss had bought a house and did not have much money on hand. While Ning Shu was thinking about how to make a living, Fu Yiji, who was locked up in the small dark room, felt a crisis. If he continued to be locked up like this, he might lose his title. Moreover, he did not know how the third princess was doing. Fu Yiji learned from the painful experience and insisted on leaving here. He could not stand it anymore. He ate, drank, defecated, slept in the same room, and even used the same room to relieve himself. Although there was a toilet bowl, it did not mean that it did not stink. The smell in the room was suffocating. Fu Yiji had never spent so many days with his own excrement. He was simply an animal. He was like an animal locked up in a pen. How could his father be so cruel? He pulled the servant who delivered the food and said that he wanted to see the marquis. He asked the servant to inform him that there would be benefits. Fu Yiji did not count on his status as the young marquis to make these servants obedient. He could only tempt them with benefits. After all, his father was the one who controlled the fate of everyone in the marquis's mansion, including his son. Fu Yiji used to think that his father loved him and was proud of him. Now it seemed that this was not the case. He took it for granted. As long as his title was not confirmed, he would be kicked out by his father at any time. He was not the only son. It was only when he held it in his hands that it was real. The Marquis did not trust his son very much. If he came out, he would definitely make a big fuss because of the third princess. So he rejected his son's request to talk. The servant came back and told Fu Yiji what the Marquis said. Fu Yiji did not believe it. "Did you tell my father?" The servant held his breath. Even through the crack of the door, he could smell the smell inside. He said, "Young master, I really did tell him. The Marquis said that you should reflect on it." Reflect on it? How could he reflect on it? He had promised that he would not look for the third princess when he went out. Now that the third princess was caught, he would not take action. Instead, it would make the third princess's situation worse. The servant pried Fu Yiji's hands away. There was dirt on his hands. When he grabbed himself, he seemed to be stained with a foul smell. The young master, who was like a banished immortal, was now in such a sorry state. He fell from the clouds. The Marquis was insulting the young master's self-esteem. Don't turn against him. The Marquis might be kind enough to let the young master reflect on it, but the young master might think otherwise. As for why he should reflect on it as a servant, he did not know what the young master had done that made him reflect on it. He had seen the young master's sorry state. When the young master came out, he did not know what to do with him. From tomorrow onwards, he would take turns to deliver food to the other servants, so as not to be killed. The servant left the food and left. Fu Yiji looked at the food on the floor. It was very simple. There were no hard dishes. There was no chicken, duck, or fish. There was only some shredded meat and vegetables. Fu Yiji was so angry that he wanted to flip the plate. But there was only one meal a day. If he flipped it over, he would have to starve for a day. It was not that he had not flipped it over before. In the end, he had to starve for a day. He was the young Marquis. Now, he was in such a sorry state because of a meal. Fu Yiji sneered. Without power, he could not protect the people he cherished. Without power, he would be trampled on. Before, he was the glorious young Marquis. Now, he could not even be compared to a servant. Fu Yiji did not dare to pick up his clothes and smell them. They were too smelly. The Marquis's wife would occasionally send some food and 2 sets of clothes. But without washing up, even if he wore the clothes, it would still be smelly. Fu Yiji said to his mother, "Mother, I want to take a bath. I can't stay here any longer. I will go crazy." The Marquis's wife was very distressed. But she still said, "Yiji, bear with it. You will be able to leave soon. Your father is still angry." Fu Yiji's heart suddenly ached. He asked, "What does my taking a bath have to do with my father being angry? Could it be that he could not even take a bath when his father was angry?" Fu Yiji never knew that he could be so pitiful. The Marquis's wife naturally heard the resentment in her son's words. "Only your father has the key to this house. If he does not let you out, you will not be able to leave." Chapter 3066. Only the Marquis had the key, so whether he could leave or not depended on the other party's words. Otherwise, he would be locked in here forever. Because the other party was a Marquis, a member of the royal family, so he could not compete. Because he wanted to do what he wanted to do, but because of the benefits, he could not do it. Did he become a man of his word, a man that no one dared to oppose, and he could get whatever he wanted? Fu Yiji sighed. He felt that he was a failure in this life. In the past, he was a beautiful and handsome young Marquis. He was a man of the hour in the capital, but he could not even get a girl's heart. It seemed that he could get whatever he wanted, but he could not even get a woman. Because there was a man who had more power than him. It was really depressing. Historically, the big fish ate the small fish, and the small fish ate the shrimps. He was at most a small fish eating shrimps. Just like how he dealt with the orphan girl, and the imperial family treated him the same way. Fu Yiji laughed coldly. Outside the door, the Marquis wife looked into the room through the gap. It was a little dark inside, and her eyes were not used to it, so she could not see where Fu Yiji was. There was a smell at the tip of her nose, and it seemed to be the smell of sweat and excrement. The Marquis wife was very distressed. Fu Yiji had never suffered since he was young, and now he was worse than a servant. "Yiji, don't quarrel with your father. No matter what, your father is doing this for the Marquis household. Yiji, you are still young, and you don't know that some things will affect the whole situation." The Marquis wife advised earnestly. What was the point of making the family restless for a prostitute? The Marquis wife probably heard that it was because of that prostitute, and that prostitute had disappeared from the Marquis household. Like Fuiji, the Marquis wife immediately thought that the Marquis had taken her away, and did not allow a prostitute to become the Marquis wife. This was simply a big joke, and there were also people in the capital who were not stingy and fooled around, and became a joke. The Marquis wife did not want her son to become a joke. Iji, say something. There was no sound at all, making the Marquis wife feel very anxious. What do you want me to say? Fuiji asked. What was there to say to his mother? Her husband was her everything. When faced with a choice between her son and her husband, of course she would stand on her husband's side. The Marquise was a little unsteady on her feet. She felt that her son was really bewitched. If she had known earlier, she would have let him marry Xiao Kaishan and take the position of the first wife. Even if she was an orphan, she was still a prostitute. Regardless of whether Xiao Kaishan agreed or not, she was going to be forceful. Previously, she had repeatedly asked for Xiao Caishan's opinion. What was there to ask? Why couldn't they just force them to get married? Now that things had turned out this way, Xiao Kaishan had already run away. Previously, he didn't care much about an orphan girl. But he didn't expect that the chicken had flown away and the eggs had been smashed. There was already news that the young Marquis Fuiji was going to get married. But there was no bride now. How did things end up like this? Fuiji, don't forget that you are a member of the Marquis estate. You are related to the glory of the Marquis estate. Forget about glory, you will implicate the entire Marquis estate. The Marquise felt that her son was simply impossible to communicate with. He was as stubborn as a calf. She couldn't even pull him back. He knew that there was a cliff in front of him, but he just kept walking forward. The bystanders were scared witless. They wanted to do something, but he turned around and used his sharp horns to poke at them. It was really painful. But they couldn't just ignore it. Glory? Face? Fuiji sneered. The Marquise frowned. What are you mocking? You have enjoyed glory and face since you were young. Now you are mocking this glory. Aren't you also struggling because you can't get a woman? You got what you wanted. Why are you looking down on the glory of the Marquis estate? What's wrong with the Marquis estate wanting to maintain its glory? It's as if you are very good at pursuing your love, treating money like dirt. Aren't you dissatisfied with the Marquis for locking you up? It's the same as bullying you. The Marquise suddenly felt that her son was sick. Fuiji gasped for breath. His lips moved, but he couldn't say anything to refute. But his heart was screaming. No, it's not like this. He clenched his fists and leaned against the wall. They didn't understand. Sometimes it wasn't others who moved him, but himself who moved himself. What he did was all his own business. What did it have to do with the third princess? Fuiji fell into his own imagination. He was like a crazy demon, thinking that it was the purest love in the world. Mother, I know I was wrong. Can you help me talk to father? I won't make trouble again. Fuiji said calmly. His voice didn't have any ripples. He couldn't act like a spoiled child. Good. It's good that you have thought it through. The Marquise hurried to find her husband. Fuiji listened to the sound of footsteps getting farther and farther away. He raised his head and looked at the sunlight shining through the glazed roof. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were calm. What is the Marquis estate? Father, your son will bring you greater glory. The Marquise went to tell the Marquise that her son knew he was wrong, but the Marquise still didn't take out the key. He is not convinced. Admitting his mistake now is just a temporary measure. The Marquise couldn't help but say, even if it is a temporary measure, he knows he was wrong. How long do you want to keep him locked up? When the dust settles, he will come out. The Marquise said directly. The Marquise was stunned. She sat on the round chair weakly. Marquise, that is our child. He is the eldest son. You didn't see how chaotic the Marquis estate is. The Marquise didn't say anything. It's better if it's chaotic. As for who will inherit the title, it will depend on their ability. Of course, the prerequisite is that they have the ability. The Marquise was about to die from anger. Originally, it was a matter that was in the bag, But suddenly there was a change. It was true that lust was a knife. Moreover, it seems that Fu Yiji's chances of inheriting the title are gradually decreasing. The Marquise had a splitting headache. How can you be so cruel? That was the child he was proud of. Now the child was just a little confused and suddenly rebelled. As the child's father, he didn't care and even wanted to deprive him of his glory. How cruel. It's not that I am cruel. It's just that he is living too well. So well that he doesn't even know that he is a member of the Marquis estate. The Marquise waved his hand to let the Marquise go. You don't have to worry about him. When the time is right, he will definitely come out. The Marquise almost cried. When the time comes, everything will be cold. How can a young Marquis be locked up for so long? A person who has never made a mistake was suddenly locked up. It will definitely lead to a lot of speculation. How big of a mistake did Fu Yiji make? The Marquise wanted to say something, but the Marquise lowered his head and continued with his work, ignoring her. How can she see the child? /BK. Chapter 3067. The Marquise did not dare to see Fu Yiji, so she returned to her own courtyard and rubbed her head. A maid brought the medicine over, reminding the Marquise that it was time to take the medicine. The Marquise drank the medicine, squinted her eyes, and breathed quickly. Fu Yiji, who was waiting for his mother, smiled and lay down on the damp bedding. In here, even a quilt could not be put in. There were no windows, so it looked like a place of confinement. Before, he did not know that there was such a place in the manor. He only saw a bright and beautiful place, but did not expect that the filth behind it would happen to him. Miss, why did you come to the manor again? Dong Shui said to Ning Shu. This was the back street of the manor, so there were few people coming and going. Miss was standing outside the wall. Since Miss is reluctant to leave the manor, why did you leave? Dong Shui sighed. Ning Shu only said, in any case, my name is about to get married, so I came to see. What happened in the manor, Ning Shu knew, so he came to wander around when he had nothing to do. It doesn't look like they are getting married. At least there was no wedding atmosphere. Now that they are getting married, Miss can't go back, sigh. Dong Shui sighed like an old man. Ning Shu turned and left. You want to go back? Dong Shui quickly followed Ning Shu. No, miss, I don't want to go back. Although life was not good now, there was no one to care about it. If she went back, she would have to look at other people's faces. Ning Shu smiled. The current Fu Yiji seemed to be a bit evil. For love, he became evil, so touching. She did not know if he would fight with the third prince in the future, but the third prince did not have any direct grudges with her, at least until now. Even if there was a grudge, it could be after the third prince came back. Without Xiao Kai-shan's name, the person who took over her name suddenly became the empress. She would probably be so angry that she wanted to drag everyone down with her. Then what should she do? She must say the relationship between Fu Yiji and the third princess. The third princess borrowed someone else's name and married an official. How could such a woman be the empress? And during this time she gave birth to a child. Who the father of the child was still unknown. The royal blood was not allowed to be mixed up. If the client made a fuss or not, she would probably die. After all, dead people do not speak. Whether it was Fu Yiji or the third marquis, neither would allow such a bomb to exist. Once it was ignited, it would definitely set off a huge storm. The marquis's mansion would suffer, the third princess consort's reputation would be ruined, and the child would be ruined. Even though the child was of royal blood, it was inevitable that they would be suspicious of the child after such a thing happened. The child was the empress was the empress. The client's position was the lowest in this incident, but she was also the most important, who asked her to be a vicious cousin. Ning Shu wanted to steal the third princess from the palace, so he might as well let Fu Yiji marry her, and also solve Fu Yiji's illness. But the palace was much more heavily guarded, and if she was stolen, it would definitely cause a large-scale search. Fu Yiji and the third princess would soon marry, and after the marriage he would use some methods to make the two of them marry. But the current situation, the fugitive third prince did not seem to have any direct grudges with the client. Ning Shu sighed. He did not know the plot was so troublesome, he did not know if the enemy would be let go, and he did not know if the innocent would be implicated. Ningshu guessed it was very likely that the client died a long time ago and was killed by Fu Yiji before the third prince came back. Anyway, Fu Yiji could not escape. He had to deal with Fu Yiji first. Now that Fu Yiji was locked up, the third princess was also recuperating in the palace. It was said that she was still imprisoned, waiting for the third prince to come back. Besides, killing a woman, a child, and the child in the womb was a little cruel. It might give the fugitive third prince an excuse to rebel. Raising the child was like raising a hostage. Both of them were locked up. Let's see how they would get married. So what if they took the name, the feeling of failing at the last step? But he did not know how evil Fu Yiji could be, and whether he dared to go to the palace to kidnap someone. Most likely, the Marquis would directly kill Fu Yiji on the spot. He would not let Fu Yiji implicate the entire Marquis household. It was not that the Marquis did not have a son. Without an heir, he still had other sons. Fu Yiji's evil side was just this: he would pull a long face, give a long face, and roar a few times. Barking. Could he gather a group of people? The Marquis household did not have an army. The various families in the capital relied on their connections in the bureaucracy. How could a group of people rebel? Political power came from the shaft of a gun. Ningshu curled her lips. That was all. If Fu Yiji really succeeded in gathering the army, she would definitely give him a thumbs up. He was only able to bully an orphan girl like her. In other aspects, to lock Fu Yiji up until the dust settled, how long would it take? 1 year, 10 years. Fu Yiji might have mushrooms growing on his body. It would not be easy for him to make a comeback. Dong Shui chattered beside Ningshu on what to eat today, the price of the dishes, and how to save money. Ningshu just listened quietly and did not interrupt. Occasionally, when she passed by a rich family, she would scan. Her mental power was simply a peeping tool. Many daughters were talking about the third princess. Before she got married, she showed up in public, talking about food, beauty. Yes, it's obvious that she is not blessed. The third prince is obviously so good to her, but in the end, she is a curse to her husband, causing the third prince to become like this. Indeed, she is not blessed. Life is unpredictable. No one knows what will happen in the future. The third princess is quite pitiful. Someone sighed with a pitiful face. What's pitiful? The third princess is a rebel. Don't talk nonsense, otherwise, people will say that you are a pitiful rebel. Yes, there is nothing pitiful. It was always icing on the cake, adding insult to injury. Previously, the third princess was a unique woman, like the wind, but now she showed up in public and even cursed her husband. Previously, the third princess was envied by many, but now, she was despised. Why can you marry such a good man? We can't find such a man. Now our hearts are balanced. Ningshu sneered, despising the third princess now. When the third prince makes a comeback at that time, the third princess will be the mother of the world. According to the love story of the emperor, there must be only one queen in the harem. This is the supreme love. At that time, it will be a slap in the face. It was just that he did not know when the third prince will come back, riding a colorful cloud in front of the third princess, and become her unparalleled hero. /BK. Chapter 3068. AI. I wonder how worried the locked-up Fu Yiji will be about the third princess. Let her be your messenger and convey your feelings of yearning. At night, Ningshu lit some calming incense and let Dong Shui fall asleep. Then Ningshu wore black clothes and went out. He avoided the patrolling guards and went to Minister Qin's house. He could not break into the palace, so he could only break into the minister's residence. The minister's residence looked a bit withered because of the third prince's matter and the marriage of the minister's daughter to the third prince. The minister's residence was inevitably implicated. Ningshu found the third princess's room. It was empty and there was nothing inside. Ningshu scanned and did not find any handwriting related to the third princess. However, he found a ball of paper under the bed. Ningshu pulled out the ball of paper and opened it to take a look. My God, this handwriting is really ugly. This was completely the handwriting of modern people who were not used to writing with a brush. The size and thickness were not uniform. To use a soft brush to write beautiful handwriting, it required special effort, including the strength of the wrist and the weight of the brush. Only then can one write smoothly. Being able to write is not a problem, writing well is a skill. Modern people used pens and ballpoint pens. As long as one knew how to write, the strength of the wrist was completely different. What kind of proposal was written on the paper? It was probably some business. In the past, before the third princess was married, all kinds of businesses were doing well. Ning Shu took the ball of paper and left as if there was no one around. The marquis's residence had guards, but the minister's residence was not so particular. There was no need to avoid people. Ning Shu returned home and unfolded the ball of paper. Then he began to imitate the handwriting of the other party. If this handwriting was taken out, it would definitely make people laugh. Even if it was a woman, she had to seriously learn and practice to write well. Unless it was a daughter of a poor family who could not read and write. Daughters of scholars, nobles, and officials would let their daughters learn. These were all things that increased the value of a woman. This handwriting was quite easy to imitate. In any case, it was as ugly as possible. If he used a letter to convey his feelings, Ning Shu felt that the other party would not even want to read the contents after seeing such words. Just like humans, your ugly appearance is the biggest obstacle that prevents me from understanding your heart. No matter how romantic the content was, the words were simply too beautiful. The young miss of the minister's manor who had been transmigrated probably couldn't write such ugly words. She didn't know why no one had seen through her disguise. After imitating the notes, Ning Shu wrote another letter, this time in the third princess's tone. How could a rebellious wife be treated well in the palace? It was guaranteed that she would not die, but that did not mean that she would be given a high bed, soft pillow, and servants to serve her. The food was definitely not exquisite. It was not easy to fill one's stomach. The third princess was actually a captive, and the imperial court did not give preferential treatment to captives. Ning Shu wrote about how these servants treated him harshly and how they ignored him. The palace was very cold and cheerless, and the servants were all monitoring him. It took a lot of effort to send this letter. Sometimes when his stomach was not feeling well, he wanted to find a doctor, but these servants ignored him. He was very scared, very lonely, very helpless, and did not dare to speak. Ning Shu wrote several pages in one go, crying with every word. Seeing the person he liked suffer, and being unable to do anything, Fu Yizhi was definitely in pain. Fu Yizhi tortured himself, moved himself, and did some rituals to express his love. Ning Shu dared to guarantee that the third princess in the palace only thought of her husband. Towards Fu Yizhi, she only treated him as a friend who came to help her. She gritted her teeth and endured it. She definitely thought of the third prince, and definitely not Fu Yizhi. Even if she wrote a letter every day, she would write to the third prince. Even if the letter could not be delivered, the third princess could still comfort herself. So, who was Fu Yizhi? He thought too highly of himself. Ning Shu folded the letter. It was several pages thick, and after folding it, it became even thicker. Taking advantage of the night, Ning Shu slipped into the Marquis Fu again. Now there were several groups of guards patrolling the Marquis Fu. It seemed that because of the third princess incident, the Marquis Fu was in a state of alarm. Ning Shu stuck close to the wall, like a cat. His footsteps did not make any sound. In the end, he found that there were people guarding the door. They did not guard during the day, but at night. She was so timid. She was not going to kidnap Fu Yizhi. She would be so stupid to carry Fu Yizhi everywhere. It did not benefit her at all, and it would also expose the fact that she was an expert. She would also be suspected of the princess consort's incident. Ning Shu flashed in front of two people. The two people guarding the door were stunned. Their voices were stuck in their throats, and they were about to break out, but they were knocked unconscious. Their screams were all blocked. In the room, Fu Yizhi opened his eyes. His eyes could not see, but it made his hearing more sensitive. Something happened outside the door. Did they let him out? But it was in the middle of the night. Even if they let him out, it would be useless. His father, the Marquis, had said that they could let him out once before locking him in again. Was he going to wander the world? His mother would not be so stupid, right? Fu Yiji was still thinking when he saw something thrown in. Then there was no movement outside. Fu Yiji fumbled around and felt a stack of paper. He put it on the tip of the pen and smelled it. It seemed to have a fragrance. It was a woman's letter. Maybe it was because he smelled the stench for a long time. A little bit of the fragrance was infinitely magnified. Now that it was dark, he could not see clearly what was written in the letter. There was not even a lamp. Could it be that they wanted to cut the wall to borrow light? For the first time, Fu Yiji felt that life was difficult. Fu Yiji put his heart in his chest and felt a burning warmth. For the first time, he could not wait for dawn to come. He wanted to know what was written in the letter. She did not have any power in the capital. It was difficult to send a letter. At dawn, Fu Yiji woke up in a daze. He hurriedly checked the letter. Seeing that the letter was still there, he breathed a sigh of relief. When he opened it, he saw the crooked handwriting. Fu Yiji burst out laughing. Only she could write such ugly handwriting. None of the young ladies in the capital could write as ugly as her. At that time, she also took out a proposal and put it in front of him. She said that there was a business and if he wanted to buy a share. At that time, her handwriting was similar to this. Fu Yiji looked at the letter and gradually frowned. He clutched his chest. It was very painful, very painful. What kind of life did she live in the palace? She was a woman who laughed wantonly and was different from the others. Now she was like a withered flower in the harem. If she married him, the third princess would definitely not live such a life. Although the Marquis's mansion was not the palace, it was still glorious and rich. Moreover, the third princess was in the palace. How could she live well? She did not care how glorious you used to be. Now that you are down, she immediately turned hostile. /BK. Chapter 3069. Even a Marquis's mansion was like this, not to mention the imperial palace. Fu Yiji took a deep breath, feeling as if he was about to suffocate. His tears could not help but fall. He wiped his face, making it look even more messy, like a prisoner in prison. Fu Yiji narrowed his eyes. This was a private prison set up by the Marquis's mansion. Which family did not have such a thing? But he did not expect that he was the one locked inside. Fu Yiji was burning with anxiety, but he did not know what to do. The footsteps outside were hurried and messy. Clearly, many people were coming this way. Fu Yiji hurriedly put away the letter. Locked in here, he had to rely on this thing to survive. Then there was the sound of chains being unlocked. The door opened and a smell came out. Fu Yiji covered his eyes with his hand. After a while, he adjusted to the strong light. He looked at his father standing in front of him, the Marquis of the Marquis's mansion, looking down at him condescendingly, as if he was a lowly thing. Fu Yiji could not help but gather his clothes. "Father, I have thought it through. I will not be willful anymore." Fu Yiji said, "If there is a good life, why should he be locked up here? Last night, the 2 guards guarding you were attacked. What did you hear?" The Marquis looked at Fu Yiji and asked. Seeing his hand consciously or unconsciously move to his waist, the Marquis narrowed his eyes. Fu Yiji said without changing his expression, "I don't know. I fell asleep. I was too hungry. If I don't sleep, I will be hungrier." Fu Yiji's tone was sarcastic, but the Marquis did not seem to hear it or did not care at all. "What's wrong with that? It's not like I haven't been here before." A Marquis who has not squatted in a dark room is not called a Marquis. The Marquis said lightly. Fu Yiji was stunned. What does he mean by a Marquis who has not squatted in a dark room is not called a Marquis? Does a Marquis have to be like this? Starving his body and being poor? He must be sick. See what he has on him. The Marquis took 2 steps back and said to the guard. Fu Yiji looked at him in horror. "You," after saying the word "you," Fu Yiji was restrained by a few guards. They searched his body and found the letter at his waist. "Master Marquis." The guard handed the letter to Master Marquis. Master Ho took it and couldn't help but grin when he saw the handwriting. Who wrote this? Even a 7-year-old could write this well. Master Ho quickly finished reading the letter and said to Fu Yiji, who was struggling, "Do you want to see her so badly?" Fu Yiji was not happy. Instead, he looked at him warily, as if he wanted to see if he was plotting something. Yes, I want to see her. The more you try to stop me, the more I want to do it, Fu Yizhi said angrily. Master Ho shook the letter and said, Then I'm really sorry. You may not be able to see him. I heard that the third prince has gathered a group of people in the north and is ready to attack the capital at any time. Fu Yizhi was surprised. He knew that the third prince would not be defeated so easily. Immediately, his face turned pale. If the third prince rebelled, then what was the use of keeping the third princess as a hostage? He must kill her to vent his anger, or kill her and send her corpse to the third prince directly to affect the third prince's mood and at the same time to frighten those who were disloyal. So, you can't see her. But you can see her. When she dies, you can see her corpse, Master Ho said coldly. Fu Yizhi trembled at his father's words. The third princess could not live. If she had married him and not been caught, she would not have lost her life. Moreover, she would have been pregnant. Father, you killed her. It was you. Fu Yizhi looked at Master Ho with red eyes. If I hadn't sent her away, she wouldn't have become like this. Master Ho was indifferent to his son's accusation. Even if I hadn't sent her away, she would have died. In such a big country, there are many women who died of pregnancy. Either disfigure her face or burn it beyond recognition, or send it to the third prince. The result would be the same. Fu Yizhi's heart beat faster. He felt more pity and pain. If the imperial court sent a fake corpse, then the third princess would be dead. If they had married, then they could be together because the third princess was dead. She was Xiao Kaishan and had nothing to do with the third princess. He was so close to getting the third princess consort. So close, so close. They could spend the rest of their lives together. He did not care who the child in her womb belonged to. He would treat the child as his own flesh and blood. In addition to this child, they could have more children. It was too desperate. Just a little. Fu Yizhi gasped and his body trembled. He didn't know if it was because of regret or pain. Fu Yizhi's first thought was that if he really wanted to kill the third princess, he would find someone to replace the third princess. Could it be that he had another chance? Master Ho stepped out of the door and was about to lock it. Fu Yizhi rushed to the door and clung to it. Father, let me out. No, I know what you want to do, but you should give up. Master Ho refused Fu Yizhi directly. Father. His voice was very hoarse, as if he hadn't spoken for a long time and had lost his voice. Fu Yizhi didn't know where the strength came from. He opened the door and knocked Master Ho, who was at the door. Master Ho staggered and ran away. Crazy, really crazy. Master Ho's face was cold. What are you waiting for? Catch him. If he ran to the palace gate and talked nonsense like this, the whole mansion would die without a burial place. He had heard that something happened to the guards at the gate, so he hurried over. At the same time, he was frightened. Who could come and go freely in the whole mansion? He even sent letters to them. Could it be the third prince's people? But if it was the third prince's people, why did he push the third princess out? He knew that if he pushed her out, the third princess would have a hard time. It didn't make sense. Master Ho was very anxious. How many forces were stirring up the situation? Was the Marquis Manor being targeted? Fu Yizhi was caught by a group of guards. He was about to run out of the whole mansion when he was pulled back. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Fu Yizhi knew a little kung fu, but he couldn't fight against so many people. Fu Yizhi was brought to Master Ho. Master Ho wanted to slap him, but it was too dirty. Master Ho didn't want to dirty his hands. Most people who came out of the dark room were misophobic. Lock him up. Lock him up until it's over. Fu Yizhi was thrown into the dark room and the door was locked. Fu Yizhi got up from the ground and shouted, Father, you can't do this. Let's have a good talk. Have a good talk. If you don't agree, I will shout that you took in the third princess and was afraid of being implicated. Then I sent the third princess to the prince's mansion and was found by the patrolling guards. Master Ho suddenly understood. There was nothing wrong with the logic. It made sense. /BK. Chapter 3071. After the woman woke up, she said that she didn't remember anything. Ernyu pitied her, and she didn't have a place to stay, So Erniu took her home. A great hermit hiding in the city might be able to escape the pursuit. And it seemed that she didn't remember anything. Amnesia? That was unlikely. If she had amnesia and couldn't remember the past, then she had forgotten the third prince. Perhaps she could live peacefully with a blacksmith. The plot would definitely not develop like this. Even if they went through hardships, they would still be together in the end. It was probably to have a place to rest, so she made up such a story. If someone asked, it would always make people feel that something was wrong. If she said that she had amnesia and couldn't remember, then everything would be over. The third princess fainted in front of the door, and Ning Shu didn't look at her. They should have never met. They had met in the Lord Protector's mansion, but the third princess definitely couldn't recognize him. It was so annoying. If they searched here, the whole street would probably be in trouble. And that Erniu was probably a small cannon fodder, someone who would be used to deal with the third princess in the fight for power in the future. Ning Shu didn't look at her, and the third princess took the initiative to come. After a few days of rest, she looked a little better. The third princess was wearing an ordinary woman's dress. It wasn't good and it was gray, but her white skin made the gray dress look good. A good-looking person would look good wrapped in a curtain. "Welcome." Dong Shui hurriedly greeted the guest. When she saw the third princess, she said, "What do you want? Is your master here?" The third princess looked at the embroidery on the shelf and asked, "Yes, if you have anything to say, you can just tell me directly. I was the one who fainted here this time. I heard that your master sent me to the clinic. I came this time to thank her. This is my gift." The third princess said to Dong Shui. He placed the basket on the table. There were eggs and pork in the basket. The thank you gift was quite sumptuous. "Oh, so it's you. You're so good-looking," Dong Shui said in surprise. "I'll take it. My master is in the backyard now." Dong Shui cheered in her heart. "Wow, there's meat and eggs. It's a sumptuous lunch." Dong Shui found Ning Shu and told him that someone was visiting. Ning Shu went into the shop and saw the third princess looking at handkerchief embroidery. "Are you feeling better?" Ning Shu lifted the curtain and asked the third princess. The third princess came back to her senses and turned to look at the source of the voice. She saw a beautiful woman with fair skin, big eyes, and cherry lips. When she walked, the hem of her dress seemed to ripple with layers of water. It was indescribably beautiful. The third princess smiled at Ning Shu. "I'm here to thank you. Thank you for saving me." Ning Shu didn't want to have too much to do with her. He said directly, "It's not me. It has nothing to do with me." The third princess was speechless. How was she supposed to respond? "Forgive me for being blunt, but the embroidery patterns in your shop are nothing special. You can make some newer patterns," the third princess said. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Was she meddling in her shop's business? Did she think that she was so great that she could turn stone into gold? With some ideas, her shop's business would roll in? Ning Shu just said, "Oh, thank you for your suggestion." So what if it was new? Embroidery was about being alive. It was only good if the embroidery was done well and exquisitely. Wasn't it better to make something kawaii? The third princess felt that the other party was ignoring her and couldn't stay any longer. Ning Shu suddenly said, "I heard that you lost your memory and don't remember anything from the past. Then what do you remember about the patterns?" The third princess's eyes flickered. "I don't remember anything. I just don't think the patterns look good." Ning Shu, "Oh ha, I'm not good? Are you here to cause trouble?" The third princess also realized that her words were a little offensive. She quickly said, "That's not what I meant. I've already received the thank you gift. If there's nothing else, I won't keep you for dinner." Ning Shu directly asked her to leave. The third princess had no reason to stay. The owner was so cold. She wouldn't be so nice to him. She could have given some new ideas, but with the other party's attitude, then forget it. After the third princess left, Ning Shu pursed his lips and told Dong Shui to cook all the things the third princess sent. These things were probably prepared with money from Erniu. The third princess didn't have much money. Erniu. Ning Shu wondered if he should report him again. It was really not safe for the third princess to stay on this street. It was as if there was a bomb buried here. Ning Shu thought for a while and felt that he should inform Fu Yizhi so that he wouldn't be so worried. In the evening, Ning Shu slipped to the Lord Protector Ho's mansion again and sent a message to Fu Yizhi. His messenger had really broken his legs from all the running. When Fu Yizhi found out that the third princess consort had escaped from the palace, he heaved a long sigh of relief. She had finally escaped. He had heard that the palace was on fire. It must have been set on fire to save her. At dawn, Fu Yizhi said to the guards at the door, "I want to see the madam. I want to see my mother. Go and inform them." Women were always soft-hearted. The Lord Protector would definitely not let him go. Now he was hoping that his mother could help him. He wanted to go out and see the third princess. The Marquise hurried over and asked Fu Yizhi what happened. Fu Yizhi directly cried and said that he wanted to go out. He already knew that he was wrong and didn't want to stay here any longer. Even if it was for a while, even if it was for a day, he just wanted to go out and get some fresh air. The Marquise was worried about her son. Fu Yizhi, who never cried, actually cried. For this reason, the Marquise copied the key and let Fu Yizhi out. When Fu Yizhi came out, the first thing he did was to wash his face and rinse his mouth. After washing a bucket of water, Fu Yizhi still felt that he wasn't clean. There was a stench on his body. This stench seemed to have seeped into his skin. No matter how happy he was, there would always be a stench. How was he going to see the third princess like this? Fu Yizhi also let the two servant girls smell him to see if there was any smell on his body. One servant girl said, "Young master, there is no smell on your body." "Nonsense." Fu Yizhi kicked the servant girl. "I just washed. There is no smell on my body?" There is a smell." The servant girl immediately kowtowed and said, "Then you said that there is no smell on my body. Clearly there is a stench, that's why you said there is no smell." The two servant girls trembled with fear and didn't dare to speak casually. Otherwise, they wouldn't know that their words had offended the young Marquise. They felt that the young Marquise was now gloomy and moody. Fu Yizhi went out with a smell on his body. His clothes and shoes were covered with incense. He went to the stable and picked a horse to go to that place. /BK. Chapter 3072. Fu Yizhi's heart was beating very fast. He was very excited. When the horse passed by a shop, it neighed and stood up, directly throwing Fu Yizhi off the horse's back. Fu Yizhi fell to the ground, but the horse seemed to have gone crazy. It did not care about anything, it wanted to run. The hard horse's hoof stepped on Fu Yizhi's leg. Kacha! It was the sound of bones breaking. Fu Yizhi let out a wail. He hugged his leg and curled up into a ball. Something happened. The horse startled. The horse stepped on a person. Dong Shui, who was observing the accident closely, also wanted to scream. "Fuck, can you not be so unlucky in front of the shop? Dandy, who asked you to ride a horse on the street?" She squeezed into the crowd and saw the wailing people. She immediately covered her mouth and quickly ran back to the shop. She ran to the backyard and said to Ning Shu, "Miss, something happened to young master." "What young master? Where did this young master come from?" Ning Shu asked. "Miss, there is also young master. Of course it is Fu Yizhi, young master. His horse was startled. It stepped on his leg and is bleeding. It must be very serious. Do you want to go and see?" Dong Shui deeply felt that the feng shui of this shop was not good, otherwise, someone would have an accident in front of her shop. It was not fainting, it was seeing blood. So scary. When Ning Shu went out, Fu Yizhi had already been carried away. There was a pool of blood on the ground. Dong Shui, wipe the blood clean. Ning Shu said to Dong Shui, "Anyway, what happened to Fu Yizhi has nothing to do with him." "Doctor, how is it?" The Marquise's eyes were red. Her whole body was not very good. She secretly let Fu Yizhi out, but in the end, something like this happened. The doctor shook his head and said, "It is a bit serious. If he recuperates well, maybe he can still walk." "What do you mean by maybe?" The Marquise suddenly exploded. "It means that Fu Yizhi may be a cripple in the future." "How can this be, in the future? How can Fu Yizhi inherit the title? Do you want a cripple Marquis?" All government officials had requirements for their appearance. If you don't care about your appearance and make yourself look like you're in your 40s or 50s, sorry, you'll have to retire early. Moreover, the emperor will give the officials some cosmetics and so on, let them take care of themselves. So, appearance is very, very important. If there is any defect, there is no title, limping to the court. You bastard, why did you go that way? If I knew it would be like this, I would have just locked you inside. The marquise howled in grief, but Fu Yiji, who was unconscious, couldn't hear her. What have you found? Asked the marquis. Yiji, the marquis rubbed his eyebrows. His son's life was too smooth, so smooth that he didn't even care about some dirty things, but now he fell because of these dirty things. It seems that during the time when Fu Yiji was locked up, the people in the marquis's mansion had some thoughts that they should not have. But it is a pity for this son. In the blacksmith shop, the third princess was absent-minded, that was Fu Yiji. Fu Yiji must have had an accident. Fu Yiji came to see her, so something happened on the way? It was all her fault for harming Fu Yiji. She didn't know how he was now. The third princess was very worried. All she could hear was the clanking of the blacksmith. It made her feel irritated. Where is he now? What is he doing? Does he still remember me? The third princess stroked her belly. The baby was already moving. But father was not by her side. Miss, do you want to go back to the marquis's mansion to see young master? When she was washing the street, she saw the blood on the ground. It made her panic. It hurt to be stepped on by the horse. Dong Shui gasped. No, we have nothing to do with the marquis's mansion. Besides, we don't have our previous identity. We will be kicked out of the marquis's mansion. She would not go. Dong Shui hesitated and said, Miss, I think the feng shui of this house is not very good. Something happens every 2 or 3 days. Ning Shu said, it has nothing to do with the house, don't wrong the house. It was the plot that brought her to this place. Now the third marquis lived in Erniu's house, and Erniu was a bachelor. For the sake of convenience, the two seemed to be husband and wife. They were not husband and wife, but a man and a woman living alone under the same roof. It would always make people's imagination run wild. Damn, everyone on this street knew that the future empress would live with a blacksmith. Then the people on this street would suffer. Maybe they would be found out by someone with bad intentions. In the game between the big people, the small people would directly become cannon fodder. Dong Shui said, if it has nothing to do with the house, then what does it have to do with? Is there a ghost? Yes, there is a ghost. Dong Shui's face changed. Is there really a ghost? Her cousin was sick, of course she had to visit. She used her spiritual power to do so. The atmosphere in the marquis's mansion was low. Fu Yiji's room was filled with a strong smell of medicine. One day and one night, Fu Yiji's high fever had not subsided. If it went on like this, it was likely that he would die. In addition, it was summer. The wound was particularly easy to get infected. The place where the horse's hooves stepped on the flesh rolled up, suppurating and bleeding. The doctors were sweating profusely. It was still a problem whether the young marquis's leg could be saved. Seeing that the situation was not good, the marquis burst into tears. He cried in front of the emperor, and then asked for an imperial doctor. Seeing the situation, the imperial doctor just shook his head. The situation is not very good. Imperial Dr. Zhang, can my son's leg still walk? Can it recover? The marquis's wife asked anxiously. Imperial Dr. Zhang shook his head. The high fever will not subside. It is still a problem whether he can keep his life. Of course, it was impossible to completely recover from the injury. It was just stepping on the leg, not on the vital parts, otherwise he would have lost his life. It was very easy to scare the horse when making trouble. No, you must save my son's leg, you must. Fu Yiji was about to wake up. It was hard to accept. Without a good body, you can't inherit the title. Fu Yiji, who was in a daze, was talking nonsense, muttering to himself, calling a girl's name. The marquis's wife completely collapsed. Why are you thinking about her? Look at what you have become. The unconscious Fu Yiji couldn't hear. He just muttered to himself. After a few days of torment, Fu Yiji's fever finally stopped. But during this period he didn't wake up even once. Then the marquis's wife hated herself. She hated herself for being soft-hearted and letting him go. Who was he going to see? Wasn't the third princess burned to death? Ning Shu used his spiritual force to scan Fu Yiji's wound. The bone was broken, and it was a comminuted fracture. There will definitely be sequelae. Even if it's good, he will still be a cripple. Ning Shu was very satisfied with this result. His lover was gone, the power was gone, and he didn't even have the chance to see the third princess from afar. /BK Chapter 3073. Fu Yiji finally woke up, and the first thing he wanted to do was to check on his leg. The Marquise tearfully comforted her son, saying that if he recuperated well, he would be able to recover. Fu Yiji was no longer a child, and he wouldn't believe what people said. At that time, he clearly felt the horse's hooves stepping on his leg. There was the sound of bones cracking, and he was going to become a cripple. He didn't just lose his leg, he also lost a lot of things. A lot. Why did the horse suddenly go crazy? The Marquise held back her tears and told him to rest well, and not to move around. Fu Yiji's face was gloomy, and he sneered. His whole body gave off a cold aura that kept people away. The Marquise couldn't help but sigh. This was her son. For a woman he ended up like this. Fu Yiji's temper was getting weirder and weirder. He would throw bowls at the slightest provocation, and sometimes he would directly splash a bowl of hot medicine on the maidservant's face, causing blisters to form on the maidservant's face. Fu Yiji sneered, "You want me to drink such hot medicine?" With such a weird temper, the servants serving him trembled in fear, not daring to even breathe loudly. Since the incident, the Marquise had come twice. When he saw Fu Yiji, he either threw things or threw a tantrum. He only looked at him coldly. Don't try to reason with people who are stubborn. Otherwise, they would be impatient to beat the shit out of them. Therefore, the Marquise only looked at him crazily and foolishly. But the more the Marquise's attitude was like this, the more Fu Yiji panicked. Now, he didn't even have the qualifications to be lectured by his father. The water of man had a temper towards things that he cared about, but towards things that he didn't care about, he was cold and indifferent. So, now he was giving up on him. His leg had a problem, and his title was going to be passed on to his other brothers. Fu Yiji was very dejected. There was a ball of fire in his heart, and he had nowhere to vent it, causing his emotions to become more and more difficult to control. There were more and more people avoiding him, and many servants went around the courtyard. It felt like the whole courtyard was emitting an irritable and uneasy atmosphere. Fu Yiji was recuperating from his injuries. He was lying on the bed, unable to move. Ning Shu would occasionally take a look at Fu Yiji's wound out of kindness. Anyway, this leg would not be able to recover, and he could only wait to become a cripple. Why was Fu Yiji not thinking about the third princess now? Who could become a marquis in the house of Marquis had nothing to do with her. The entire house of Marquis had nothing to do with her. If you're no longer the Marquis, who will remember you? They don't even know your name. Therefore, Fu Yiji did not have much of a future to speak of. Of course, he could not enter the imperial court. He could earn money, but he was inferior to everything else. Studying was the only thing that was worth it. Even if Fu Yiji had become a cripple who couldn't do anything, the Marquis mansion would not let him go into business. A former young Marquis running away to do business, the Marquis mansion would not be shameless. Therefore, Fu Yiji's life was still the same. There were groups of servants, a high bed and soft pillows, but some things were different. Moreover, he could not let the third princess stay here. If she was taken away, she would come back. If she came back, he could still take her back. Although the fake princess was dead, her face was burned beyond recognition. Who would know who she was? Therefore, in the middle of the night, Ning Shu started again. He went to Erneu's house. Erneu and the third princess slept separately. When the third princess was sleeping, her mouth murmured, "Prince, Prince, don't leave me," and so on. How could no one discover her identity even like this? She had a noble person to help her along the way. She was really lucky. Ning Shu knocked the third princess unconscious and carried her to the imperial palace. There were patrols around the imperial palace at all times. Ning Shu put down the third princess and ran away. He did not think of calling the guards. There were too many guards around the imperial palace. If he poked them, it would be like a hornet's nest. Moreover, such a conspicuous location should be discovered quickly. Ning Shu felt very tired. This third princess was really troublesome. As for the fate of the third princess who was caught, it was not her business. She only needed to be responsible for not being implicated. Maybe in the storyline, she was the one who detonated the bomb. Whether it was marrying Fu Yiji or now the third princess was stranded here, only she knew the real identity of this girl. She was going to report it. This report would certainly cause a huge uproar. She would definitely be killed. In order to avoid being implicated, Ning Shu simply went all out. He carried her away again and again. He did not know the storyline and did not know if he had any grudges with the third princess. But in order to protect himself, he definitely had to take the third princess away. Maybe the entire street would be implicated. A large group of people would prove that the Empress and Ernyu were husband and wife. It would prove that the Empress was not fit to be the Empress. Ning Shu waved his hand. Goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, my friend. He returned home in the dark. Ning Shu began to sleep. When the sun rose, he saw Ernyu looking for her everywhere. He asked everyone if they had seen her. Ning Shu directly said to Ernyu, "You don't have to look for her. Maybe she left because of some difficulties. Looking at her extraordinary temperament, she is definitely not an ordinary person." Ernyu was an honest man. He did not have this blessing. Not to mention a blessing, it could be a disaster. Ernyu sighed. Sadness flashed through his black and red face. Why didn't she tell me that she wanted to leave? It's not like I won't let her go. Anyway, she's going to leave. It doesn't matter whether she said it or not. Ning Shu said directly. Ning Shu's words really made Ernyu sad. When he met a fairy-like woman, he piously worshipped her and did not dare to blaspheme her. Now that she was gone, he felt lost and sad. Ning Shu watched Ernyu leave in a daze. He felt that the third princess was really charming. The third princess would definitely be taken to the palace, but the third princess was already dead. Therefore, the third princess was locked up in the palace. She was an anonymous person. She certainly could not announce that she was the third princess. This was a bit embarrassing. The identity of the third princess became very embarrassing. Moreover, she was pregnant. Who knew how many concubines would suspect her? Ning Shu didn't worry about these things. He just wanted to know when he could leave this world. It had been a long time. Why didn't they tell him to leave here? Could it be that the mission hadn't been completed yet? Fu Yiji was already ruined. Other than that, what else was there? Did they have to wait until the third Wangye came back? How long would they have to wait? Ning Shu paid attention to the situation of the battle. He said that the third Wangye had captured the city again. Everyone was in a state of panic. They didn't know when the battle would come. Ning Shu only hoped that it would end quickly. It was really stupid to be so confused. Moreover, the person who entrusted him didn't even have a wish. Who knew what he wanted? No, he didn't even know. Miss, young Master Qi is waiting for you in the shop. Dong Shui jumped into the room and said to Ning Shu with a smile. How did he know about this place? Ning Shu looked at Dong Shui. Dong Shui lowered her head and said, "We met on the street, and then young Master Qi pestered you to ask about your situation. /BK." Chapter 3074. He didn't expect Fu Hongqi to find this place. It was a bit annoying. Also, Dong Shui, this thoughtless girl, even told them the address. Dong Shui felt Ning Shu's displeasure and lowered her head. "Miss, I was rude. Young Master Qi only came to see you. He's relieved that you're doing well." They hadn't even met twice. Was it okay to say such things? Ning Shu held a fan and waved it as he walked to the shop. Fu Hongqi was drinking tea. When he saw Ning Shu, he quickly put down the teacup and cupped his hands. "Miss Biao." Ning Shu nodded. "Young Master Qi, what business do you have here?" "The weather is getting hotter. I went to order 2 bolts of cloth. They're very refreshing." Ning Shu looked at the cloth on the table and asked, "Why are you giving me these things? In what name are you giving them?" It seemed like they had nothing to do with each other now. Fu Hongqi immediately said, "You're a guest of the Marquis' manor. Although you've moved out, you're still a guest." Ning Shu shook his head. "It's okay. I have nothing to do with the Marquis' manor now." Fu Hongqi obviously couldn't win against Ning Shu. He muttered and his face turned red. Although our identities are different, we're still related by blood. I don't have any blood relations with you. Ning Shu waved his fan and said lightly. At most, he had a bit of blood from his father's side. Fu Hongqi's father was the son of the old master and a concubine. Logically speaking, they couldn't be married until they were out of the family. In ancient times, there were many marriages between close relatives. However, there weren't many that were deformed or sick. Actually, there were. Those that were born with defects or deformities would be disposed of so that the child wouldn't grow up. There were also some that had serious genetic diseases. They either had miscarriages or died in the womb. They couldn't be seen in the world. Men didn't care, but women were miserable. Ning Shu said, "Young Master Qi, take these things back. Don't send them over. I don't need them. If I need them, I'll buy them myself." "Young Master Qi shouldn't come here in the future," Ning Shu said directly. Fu Hongqi's expression was a bit ugly and desolate. He hugged the 2 bolts of cloth and left. His back looked a bit bleak. Dong Shui stood at the door of the shop until Fu Hongqi disappeared. Dong Shui asked, "Miss, why?" Ning Shu waved his fan. "There's no reason. I just don't want to interact with them anymore. I don't want rumors to spread." "Young Master Qi is just concerned about Miss," Dong Shui said. Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't want to go back to the Marquis estate. I don't want the people of the Marquis estate to see me and say, 'Hey, you look a lot like our young miss.' No, 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 I'm not the young miss, you know." It's tiring to explain. Once, twice, time after time, wouldn't he be exhausted to death? Even though the client didn't interact with others, the servants of the Marquis estate still recognized the client. It was annoying to listen to gossip every day. Dong Shui made a sound of disappointment. Ning Shu asked, "Why are you so obsessed with returning to the Marquis estate?" Dong Shui said, "This servant is worried that after Miss passes away, there won't be any incense. Miss, we're like rootless grass right now. We don't have any clan, no family. In the future, there won't be anyone to burn incense for Mississippi. Without any offerings, without incense, Miss will definitely be very miserable after passing away." Ning Shu used his fan to hit her head. "You're saying it like your family's Miss won't marry. Even if she doesn't marry, if she wants incense, it's simple. Give the temple incense money and have the monks burn incense for me. I'm already dead. Why would I care about what happens after I die?" The main thing was that the people of this era especially believed that people could conquer the heavens. As long as there were people, anything could be done. Clans and families banded together to help each other. They placed great importance on this. Dong Shui stomped her feet. "Miss," even though Ning Shu said that he refused to interact with them, Fu Hongqi still sent some trinkets over from time to time. They weren't sent by Fu Hongqi, but by Fu Hongqi's page boy. He would throw the things away and run away, afraid that he would be rejected. Ning Shu conveniently put these things in a box. When the time came, he would return it to Fu Hongqi together. Was there any meaning in sending it every day? "Miss, why hasn't young Master Qi come to deliver things today?" Dong Shui looked outside the shop. Ning Shu very calmly waved his fan. "Calm down. This is called loosening the reins to grasp them better." The more she traveled in the world, the more tricks she would use. Even if she received things and felt unhappy and impatient, she would continue to send things. Gradually, people would get used to receiving things every day. If one day he suddenly didn't send anything, her heart would definitely be filled with fluctuations. She couldn't help but guess what was going on with the other party and why he didn't send anything. See, even Dong Shui was used to it and asked why he didn't send anything. "Miss," she didn't understand, but it was awesome. In the evening, when it was almost dark, Fu Hongqi's page boy came to deliver the things. He apologized and said, "Young master has been studying in the academy recently and rarely comes back." Ning Shu made an "oh" sound and took out the box. "Take these things back and return them to your young master. Don't send anything else. It's not good to give things in private. This. The page boy looked at these things. They were all placed in the box. They were all things that were sent in the past. The sugar figurines had melted. Take it back, Ning Shu said to the page boy. You've also suffered during this period. He asked Dong Shui to give him some money for running away. The page boy had no choice but to take the box back. He stammered and passed the message to Fu Hongqi. Fu Hongqi sighed. This cousin didn't like him. Did she like Fu Yizhi? But now Fu Yizhi's leg was injured. The imperial physician from the palace said that his condition was not good. As the son of a concubine, Fu Hongqi understood Fu Yizhi's current situation. He was really crippled. Maybe his cousin didn't know about this situation. But he heard that Fu Yizhi had an accident in front of his cousin's shop. Maybe his cousin already knew. Regardless of the undercurrent in the Hofu because of Fu Yizhi's accident, Fu Hongqi knew that no matter how many people tried, it wouldn't be his turn. He didn't have such thoughts. Besides Fu Yizhi, his uncle also had other sons. But Fu Yizhi, who was the pride of the Hofu, was defeated so quickly. It seemed like someone was manipulating behind the scenes to destroy Fu Yizhi. He heard that Fu Yizhi was going to marry a brothel girl. But this brothel girl had disappeared. Originally, they were going to prepare for the wedding. What was Fu Yizhi doing? Fu Hongqi felt that there were too many things that he couldn't figure out. He didn't suspect the delicate and pitiful orphan Xiao Kaishan. After all, Xiao Kaishan was deprived of her name and was driven out of the Hofu. Fu Hongqi sighed. Prince Xiang has a dream, but the goddess has no heart. The page boy didn't understand and asked, then will she continue to send things? Fu Hongqi shook his head. No, she doesn't want to have anything to do with the Hofu. Chapter 3075. Young master, why are you not good enough for her? She is an orphan who has lost both her parents. Young master, you are the son of the Ho household, and will soon become an elementary scholar. The attendant felt that his young master was 1,000 good things about him. If the other party didn't agree, then it was not tactful. Fu Hongqi held a brush and practiced calligraphy. If you don't want to, then forget it. Why force it? For a bastard like him, when the time came, he would marry a bastard's daughter. It would be a good match. Then he would be further and further away from the power center of the Hofu. After a few generations, he would be a member of the Hofu. He would be an accountant or a shopkeeper, managing the Hofu's business. The nobles had their own businesses. If they relied on the emperor's little money, how could they support such a large family? Fu Hongqi now wanted to study more and earn his own glory. Deal with these things as you see fit. Don't ask me. Fu Hongqi didn't stop writing. He used the brush to fill it with ink and casually said to the servant, Young master, what about Miss Gu? The servant asked. Fu Hongqi said, Don't worry. She still has half a year to go. Yes, young master. The servant immediately dealt with the things with a smile. Fu Hongqi was still practicing calligraphy. The light flickered. Ning Shu's life was very good. The servant didn't come anymore. His business gradually improved. Occasionally he would do embroidery. When he was free, he would squat in the corner outside the Hofu and eavesdrop. On the other hand, Nyo had been inquiring about the whereabouts of the third princess consort. However, this person seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. There was no news at all. This really made Nyo dispirited for some time. Someone sent the third princess to the emperor's door. The emperor was probably muttering in his heart. What was the intention of the person behind this? Who was it? She was rescued, but now she appeared again. He could only lock her in the cold palace. A woman entered the palace for no reason. There were always people who noticed that the cold palace was an ominous place. There were few people here. Of course, the emperor also sent people to guard her. For the time being, they would not take her life. She sent herself to the emperor's door again and again. This third princess would not die for the time being. He wanted to see if there was any conspiracy. So far, the third princess had been to several places. It was also quite bumpy. Ning Shu asked the system, Has my mission been completed? The system replied, It should be done, but the client didn't say anything about returning, nor did he say anything about reincarnation. In this situation, you should stay in this world for now. Ning Shu was speechless. His heart was stifled. Ning Shu, She's watching from the side. Doesn't she remember anything? The system replied, I don't know, I can't communicate with him. Ning Shu propped up his chin and looked at the people coming and going outside the shop. He sighed in his heart and wondered when he could leave. Or is this mission not completed yet? You should at least give me a direction to work towards. This kind of mission really left the mission enforcers at a loss. Ning Shu stretched and released his spiritual force to check on Fu Yiji's situation. Right now, Fu Yiji was in the mood of, I want to take revenge on society. He was injured and had lost a lot of things. I can't take it anymore. I have to do something. His temper was so bad that no one could get close to him. Even the Marquise couldn't do anything about him. She gave up on this son with tears in her eyes and turned to a concubine's son to raise. Having such a son was a guarantee. It could guarantee the Marquise's position in the Marquise's household. Of course, the one who loved her son the most was still her son. She served him medicine every day. But whenever Fu Yiji wasn't happy, he would break things. Well, one day the young Marquise of the Marquise's household, Fu Yiji, died of illness. He was trampled by a horse. After dragging on for a while, he couldn't take it anymore and passed away. The Marquise's household was hung with mourning clothes. That peerless man was like a shooting star, his brilliance fading away in an instant. Ning Shu smacked his lips. If one were to ask who was the most ruthless person in the Marquise's household, it would definitely be the Marquise who was related to this body by blood. This uncle was really ruthless. But the Marquise couldn't be blamed for killing his son. At that time, the Marquise gave him two choices. One was to drink this bowl of poison and end this crazy life. Two was to raise his spirits. Don't be like this all the time, causing everyone to suffer and being looked down upon. He repeatedly stated that this was real poison. Once it entered the throat and blood flowed, he would definitely die. When the silver needle was placed in the bowl, it instantly turned black. It was incomparably black. Then Fu Yiji drank the poison. He lost too much. The woman he liked, the title, and a crippled body. What was the point of living? To be ridiculed by others? The Marquise sulked for several days because of this, scolding his unfilial grandson. This matter was the biggest blow to the Marquise. She felt that the Marquise felt that this son of hers had lost face, so she poisoned Fu Yiji. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. How could you be so cruel? The husband and wife quarreled until they were about to become enemies. Furthermore, the Marquise's son, whose concubine had been taken away, also took the opportunity to ask for his own child back. The Marquise's last bargaining chip was gone. He's too arrogant. This cousin is good in every way, but he thinks too highly of himself. It's as if the whole world is looking at him. This is actually an illusion. Fu Hongqi shook his head and said, most people ignore you. You haven't reached the point where others can't ignore you. Fu Yiji's death, rather than saying that he was killed by others, it was better to say that he was forced to death by himself. Excessive pursuit of perfection, unable to accept any imperfection, not even a little bit. Perhaps there were too many people who praised Fu Yiji's perfection since he was young, resulting in Fu Yiji's injured leg. He felt that he was imperfect and couldn't accept it. For a concubine's son like him, should he end his own life? Fu Yiji was the one who started high and left low. As his brother, Fu Hongqi, of course, had to burn incense for his brother and then kneel down and kowtow. The sound of the suona filled the Marquise's mansion. Ning Shu watched as Fu Yiji's coffin was carried out of the Marquise's mansion. Fu Yiji didn't have any children, and there was no one to throw the basin. A suitable child was chosen from several branches of the Marquise's mansion to throw the basin for Fu Yiji. Ning Shu felt that Master Ho's way of persuading people was wrong. You fucking brought over a bowl of poison and asked me to either live or die. Didn't you want me to die? Then I'll drink it. Fu Yiji was originally in a state of despair. After being provoked, he must have directly drank the poison. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that Master Ho wanted to get rid of Fu Yiji. It was a bit cold. Fortunately, he left. Master Ho might have accepted a perfect heir, but suddenly this heir went crazy and made himself like this. He didn't want to admit that he was blind. Fu Yiji had been meddling in the affairs of the third princess, which had already made the emperor vigilant. Who knew if Fu Yizhi, in this state, would throw caution to the wind and say something earth-shattering? Without Fu Yizhi, the marquise's life in the marquise's mansion was not easy. Moreover, the marquise had missed the best time to give birth. The couple had fallen out like this, how could they lie on the same bed and make a baby? Chapter 3076. Ning Shu planned to move, but he was tight on money. However, Fu Yizhi was already dead, so it should be fine to stay here. Everything was done in secret, so they would not suspect a weak girl like her. At most, it would lead to those big shots. The system's mechanical voice sounded in his mind, mission completed, leaving the world. Ning Shu was stunned. Could it be that the client's wish was to kill Fu Yizhi? If he knew earlier, he would have killed Fu Yizhi, or made the marquise suffer. Ning Shu was forced to leave the world and return to the system space. The mission was finally completed. Ning Shu asked the system, will she go back? No memories, no future. If she went back, it would be a new life. If she did not go back and directly went to the afterlife, then she would have wasted half of her life. The system said, she should go back. Ning Shu asked again, why did the mission suddenly finish? The system said, before the mission enforcer went back, she said that it was probably because that person died, and the big stone in her heart was suddenly removed, and she could breathe freely again. So, she still wanted Fu Yizhi to die. He did not know what happened, but from what Ning Shu understood, Fu Yizhi was a person who looked calm on the surface, but was extremely stubborn on the inside. Moreover, he was arrogant. After being praised for a long time, he could easily obtain anything. This kind of stubbornness would inevitably implicate others. The client probably killed him to silence him, and in the matter of exchanging identities, the marquise was probably involved. Ning Shu opened the status panel. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Enforcer Points card, 237 plus 5, 10 million points per card. Soul value, 31 plus 1 life value, 28 plus 1 wisdom, 39 plus 1 luck, 25 plus 1 charm, 15 plus 1 spiritual power, 40 plus 1 martial strength, 28 plus 1 qualifications, 36 faith, 20,000 merit, 15,000,000 soul strength, 11 authorization ticket, 0 pure heart, none law comprehended. Water law incarnation, wood law incarnation, space law, earth law incarnation, constructed world, reincarnation world items, calm aura, heart calming pill, amulet 4, upgraded amulet plus 2, faith bell honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate fighting technique, intermediate level poison technique, beginner level business management knowledge, beginner level code programming, beginner level lawyer skill, sage ghost catching skill, beginner level cooking skill, intermediate level embroidery skill, trash hypnosis aura, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, best friend for life, Meow. Meow Meow's blessing, healer of the dying, Zhu Susu's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty-in-law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, transcending race communication, Bai Sanyang's blessing, brave heart, Wang Ying's blessing, bloodthirsty tyrant, Enai Bingyan's blessing, heart of peace and joy, luck halo, faith halo, and longevity. Completed Xiao Caishan's wish. Mission completion rate, 100%. Total mission rewards, 5-point cards, 7 attribute points, 60% soul power, 4,000 faith, including previous world's accumulation. Ning Shu looked at the points and the attribute points. What a pitiful amount of points. These were the real points. The ones given before were all fake. 80% soul power, but it didn't feel like it was more than 80%. It was only 60% now, but it was more than 80% before. Ning Shu kept the soul power. His current soul strength didn't need to absorb soul power. Let's go take a look at the law of nothingness. When it came to the law of nothingness, Ning Shu felt a headache. He had already entered the law of nothingness and was floating in the air. There was no place to step. Anyway, the law of nothingness was already very big. It was like an ocean. Ning Shu had to fly for a while to reach the end. It would take a lot of time to go around it. Ning Shu threw the star stones into the law of nothingness. There wasn't even a splash. Ning Shu also didn't feel the peerless martial art asking him for help. He touched the peerless martial art and didn't feel anything strange. Ning Shu could only comfort himself. It was good news that there was no movement. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to react in time. He went to the world of reincarnation to check on the soul fluid. He set up an array and also made a pool of star stones. Ning Shu walked in and took a look. The pool was clean and there was nothing in it. He didn't collect any soul fluid either. Ning Shu, this was awkward. He spent so much money but didn't get anything. Maybe it was because there weren't many souls in the world of reincarnation without consciousness. Ning Shu set up an array that could prevent other souls from stealing the soul fluid. It wasn't easy for him to collect some. He couldn't let the souls in the world of reincarnation steal the soul fluid. Although the outside world was still evolving and he didn't know how many worlds it would evolve, this world was stable. It was equivalent to taking root. Ning Shu wasn't afraid anymore. He also went to take a look at his precious skeletons. In the arena, there were skeletons fighting. There were cheers and shouts in the surroundings. There were more than 2,000 people. When they fought, there was a huge commotion. There were no souls in the surroundings. Ning Shu just looked from afar. Some skeletons already had a faint golden color on their bodies. Some skeletons were still white. The gap was slowly widening. Other than individual battles, there were also some group battles where they cooperated. Zhu Jun looked up and saw Ning Shu above the clouds. He jumped up and jumped very high. He exchanged glances with Ning Shu and then fell back down. When he fell, he bent his knees slightly and jumped up again. Ning Shu, there were springs under his feet. He could jump so high. Ning Shu landed on the ground and asked Zhu Jun, "How's the situation now?" "It's okay, but there are no more merit grains," Zhu Jun said. Ning Shu looked at him indifferently. "You didn't embezzle them, right?" Zhu Jun shook his head seriously. "No, those merit grains are managed by the 4 selected people. There is no embezzlement. If the number is wrong, it will be discovered at the first moment." It was good that there was supervision. He was afraid that Zhu Jun would monopolize it. There must be someone to check and balance it. "Bring the other 3 people over. Let me take a look." Although he might not remember who was who, it was necessary to meet them. Maybe they were the future leaders. All right. Zhu Jun ran off at a very fast speed, disappearing from sight. After a while, 3 skeletons came over. Zhu Jun said, "This is the master of this world, our Pai. Bus. Tobus." The 3 skeletons saluted differently. One saluted with a military salute, one put his hand on his chest and bowed, a knight salute, and one cupped his hands. Although she had no memory, the greeting was imprinted in her bones. Fortunately, no skeleton reached out to shake her hand. Chapter 3077. Do you all have names? Tell me your names. Although they were all skeletons, he could just call them by their names if he couldn't recognize them. Ing Yu. Yan Chuan. Wenji. Ning Shu chewed on the 3 names and memorized them. Then, he took out some merit points. Record these merit points in a book. Also, just fighting is useless. You must develop morality, intelligence, physique, beauty, and labor. Some skeletons are just smart, but their physical fitness is not good enough. Zhu Jun shook his head. They are all skeletons. As long as they have the support of merit grains, they won't be too weak. On the contrary, those who are not smart will become weaker. Ning Shu nodded. That's the reason. However, there are some skeletons with special characteristics. Pay attention to them. For now, the team will be temporarily handed over to the 4 of you. The 4 of you won't be able to manage such a big team. Spread out and promote those who can be promoted. This way, it will be easier to manage. Ning Shu said. The 4 skeletons nodded stiffly. Got it. Pay more attention to the Lake of Rebirth. The Lake of Rebirth will give birth to an evil beast. Zhu Jun should know what it is, so you must monitor it at all times. That's all for now. Pay more attention. Ning Shu thought for a while and didn't have much to say. Ning Shu let the 4 skeletons go back. He went to the Lake of Rebirth to take a look at the Book of Life and Death. He didn't know if the Book of Life and Death recorded the life and death of this world. With this thing, it would be much easier to check a person's past life. If it evolved again, it would record the life and death of more creatures. Things born from the Tao of Heaven are all good things. Zhu Jun didn't go back with the other 3 skeletons. He followed behind Ning Shu step by step. Ning Shu asked, "What's the matter?" "Crispy Pippy, when will you go to the world of living again?" Zhu Jun asked expectantly. "Crispy Pippy your sister? Your whole family is crispy." Ning Shu said elegantly, "Not for now. Don't keep thinking about the outside world." "Oh," Zhu Jun replied. "When are you going? Can you bring me along?" "If you work hard, I will bring you on a trip. If you don't work hard, then forget it." Zhu Jun said, "Don't worry, I will definitely do my job well. If you want to go to the world of living beings, remember to bring me along." Ning Shu grunted, and Zhu Jun immediately skipped away. It wasn't the delicate skipping of a little girl. Instead, he jumped very far away. After landing, he jumped up again and jumped even further. Li Si kept flipping through the Book of Life and Death. Ning Shu asked, "Did you find it?" Li Si shook his head. "Now, the words on the Book of Life and Death are gone. There's nothing left." Li Si handed his Book of Life and Death to Ning Shu. Ning Shu flipped through the Book of Life and Death, and as expected, it was filled with blank sheets of paper. The living beings that were recorded in the past were all gone. Ning Shu said, "It's a good thing that they disappeared. How can they record the creatures of this world if they don't disappear?" Li Si probably wanted to laugh, but the skeleton couldn't laugh. In order to express its joy, it squeezed out a few chuckles from its throat. What an unpleasant laugh. Ning Shu squatted beside the pool of rebirth and watched the souls jump in one by one. There was no ceiling, and they disappeared. Flowers bloomed and wilted. Life was just like that. Reincarnation was really bitter. Who knew what she would become next time? So, her current state was the best. Ning Shu was still feeling sad beside the pool of rebirth when the system shouted, "Master, there's a message." It was probably about picking up trash again. It could always accurately find the time when she was resting. Ning Shu stood up with the umbrella and returned to the system space. He took a look and saw that it was indeed the system urging him to pick up the fragments. Ning Shu picked up the sign and hung it around his neck. Since he was going to pick up trash, it would be good to earn some money. There were so many wild men waiting to be raised. Ning Shu asked the system to send him a location. He wanted to try building a spatial tunnel himself. Ning Shu wasn't sure how strong his spiritual power was, but he wanted to test it out. Maybe he could build a spatial tunnel. The system gave him the location of a spatial node. Ning Shu coughed and swayed left and right to warm up. He let out a long breath and began to build the spatial tunnel. His spiritual power surged out like a tide and quickly built the tunnel. It was as if many invisible bricks were flying over to form the tunnel. The consumption of spiritual power was too great. Ning Shu was stunned, but the construction of the spatial tunnel continued. Finally, it connected to the spatial node. Ning Shu couldn't believe it was real. Did it really succeed? Ning Shu was a little afraid that it wasn't solid enough. He had to crawl through the spatial tunnel that he built himself. Ning Shu walked into the spatial tunnel. The tunnel was a little shaky. Ning Shu stepped lightly. When there was no movement, he put his feet back down. It was as if he was afraid of stepping on a landmine. Fortunately, he finally reached the location. As soon as he came out of the spatial tunnel, Ning Shu wanted to shout, "Everybody, I finally succeeded in building the spatial tunnel. This has something to do with everyone's support, but more importantly, it's my own efforts." Ning Shu turned the sign in front of him over and showed the side with the words, "Picking up fragments, 100,000 yuan each time." As soon as Ning Shu appeared, business came to him. It was so popular. The wild men at home had food to eat. Fuck, I'm responsible for making money to support the family, But even skeletons aren't as beautiful as flowers. Ning Shu, come here. Ning Shu waved. I have something to tell you. Ning Shu smiled at these customers and said, the judge is looking for me. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Ning Shu squeezed out of the crowd, worried that the grand uncle was here to cut off his source of income. Ning Shu asked with a smile, why are you looking for me? You handle the star stones, said the grand uncle. Ning Shu was stunned. Why? Why what? The grand uncle raised his eyebrows. Isn't it good to master one more skill? Ning Shu shook his head. I don't know how to. I can't make money from handling the star stones. Fragrant Wind Man looks irritable every time he handles the star stones. This shouldn't be a good job. Ning Shu said, there are so many people. How can you find me? They all have their own worlds to maintain and deal with more things. The grand uncle pulled a chair out of nowhere and sat down. Ning Shu was speechless. That's why I seem to be the most idle here. I can even make money. Since you can pick up fragments, you have to learn how to handle the star stones. Ning Shu was very touched and wanted to break his legs. Actually, I really don't know how to handle this. Besides, I have things to deal with. Besides, I'm already very tired from picking up 1,000,000 pieces. I can't handle the star stones, Ning Shu said. The grand uncle sharpened his nails with a file, put it to his mouth and blew. He said lightly, you can handle it. I can't handle it. Based on the current situation, Ning Shu felt that the grand uncle wanted to shift the responsibility to someone who could handle the star stones and then climb up on his own. Besides, there were so many people who could handle the star stones. Why did he look for her? They are all very busy. And he has a huge team to manage, and uncle has to deal with the prop problem. The grand uncle's glasses were a little reflective, and his eyes couldn't be seen clearly. Wasn't she afraid of embezzling the star stones? Chapter 3078. Ning Shu was very surprised that she was suddenly asked to deal with the star stones. Senior uncle had always been the one to deal with it. Occasionally, Fragrant Wind would do it, but it was all done through gritted teeth. Ning Shu asked, aren't you doing well? Senior uncle sat in a chair. I have something to do. What's the use of learning more? Ning Shu said, you guys can do it. I can shout 666 from the side. Senior uncle said, why don't you learn something else instead of picking up the pieces? Uncle has too many things to deal with. Not only do you have to make items, but you also have to make the system space that matches the mission taker and the system. And he patrols the plane, so you have the most free time. Ning Shu was speechless. What do you mean by the most free time? I don't know how busy I am. I have to worry about how to make money every day. There are so many people to feed. Do you think she's free to pick up the pieces to make money? Ning Shu chuckled in his heart. Ning Shu said tactfully, I may not be able to do it. What's the benefit? Senior uncle put down the nail clipper and file and said to Ning Shu, go easy. What the hell? Go easy? Senior uncle stretched out his hand, and Ning Shu realized that he was going to wash his hands. Ning Shu got some water expressionlessly. Senior uncle washed his fingers carefully, wiped the water on his hands with a white handkerchief, and then slowly put on white gloves. Don't you have me to teach you? You're not a pig. You should be able to learn it, Senior uncle said. Ning Shu shouted silently. I'm a pig. Senior uncle stood up and took off the tag on Ning Shu's neck. Let's start. You're not as direct as selling your body. This was simple and clear. What's selling my body? Ning Shu asked. What do I need to do? Since it was already like this, he might as well learn. Ning Shu asked again, how many merit points do I get every time? No matter how great loyalty was, it couldn't compare to poverty. I love the organization deeply, but I can't live without money. 100,000. Ning Shu frowned. So little? Every time, there would be a huge pile of star stones that needed to be dealt with. He had to remove the star stones from the fragments. There were a lot of star rocks, and they were connected to more than one side. Processing the star rocks included purifying the star rocks. Fragments could not be mixed in. They had to be processed piece by piece. Then, he had to turn the solid stellar stone into a liquid state, and he had to place the liquid stellar stone on the plane wall. Then he would let the planes stick together. He still had to see how well they stuck together. If he let go too early and didn't stick them together properly, he would have to redo it. If he dragged it out too long, it would be a waste of time. The next place was waiting to be dealt with. Such a complicated process. It was only 100,000 yuan. Ning Shu wondered why it was so cheap since it was a technical move. The Grand Elder said indifferently, one place is 100,000, and the next place is 100,000. Understand? Ning Shu replied, oh, I understand. Grand Elder, let's start. Learn it as fast as possible. Ning Shu was speechless. These two props are used to process and scrape the star rocks. Put away the processed star rocks and then process them together. Ning Shu squatted down and picked up a smaller fragment to scrape the surface of the star rock. However, a force directly numbed her arm. She used a lot of strength, but it bounced back. Ning Shu shook her arm. No. Since you can connect the planes, you can't hold the planes without some strength. Since there are rules, use the power of the rules, the Grand Elder said indifferently as he watched from the side. Ning Shu cursed in her heart. Could it be that she, a newbie, had to deal with so many star rocks? Ning Shu had no choice. She had the power of the rules, but she was still very unfamiliar with the process. She felt that her arm was no longer her own. She really wanted to leave. It was so easy to pick up the fragments. The Grand Elder pulled a chair and sat beside her. He had no intention of helping at all. The big shots who had picked up the fragments were waiting. There was also the army that was dragging the plane that had lost control. Everyone stared at Ning Shu. Oh my God, so many people are looking at me. I'm so nervous. Ning Shu felt that her arm was shaking. It was bounced back by the power of the star rock. Even if she used the power of the rules, it was still bounced back. It hurt. Especially when she saw the mountain of star rocks that needed to be processed, it really made her feel desperate. Ning Shu said euphemistically, everyone is waiting. The Grand Elder looked at her, his eyes white. What does it have to do with you? You have the time to worry about others, but you don't have to worry about yourself. Ning Shu was speechless. I mean, the two of us can do it faster. Does she have to worry about others? Ning Shu began to process the star rocks dispiritedly. As she processed, she asked, are there any tricks? Zheng Qing's body was so big. She guessed that the Grand Elder's body wouldn't be small either. He must be very strong. She was just an ordinary soul. How could she have such strength? Wait until your body adapts, the Grand Elder said coldly. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn it. It wasn't easy for her to pick up fragments, but now she had to learn it again. Ning Shu was still struggling. I think I can shine more if I pick up fragments. There's no distinction between high and low jobs. I'm willing to give my whole life to pick up fragments without any regrets. The Grand Elder said, hurry up and deal with it. Use the strength of talking to deal with these things. Ning Shu was speechless. Don't you understand? Even if you did, you pretended not to understand. Ning Shu sniffed and continued to process. Now, not only were her arms shaking, but her entire soul was in pain from the rebound. Oh fuck. This was really a tough job. No wonder Fragrant Wind looked so bitter. These big shots were all waiting. Some impatient ones didn't want to wait. They walked over and asked the Grand Elder, when are we going to the next place? It was boring to waste time on such useless things. The Grand Elder said, it's urgent. Help me deal with it. The big shot choked. Looking at the mountain-like star stones, he said, forget it. I'll wait. I can afford to waste some time. I'm just worried that there will be many planes to deal with later. The Grand Elder said, I'm not in a hurry. Why are you in a hurry? Big shot. Of course I'm in a hurry. Can't you help a little? There are so many. When will the little girl finish? The big shot could only go back and continue to wait. The Grand Elder sat in a chair with his eyes slightly closed, as if he was taking a nap. He crossed his legs and didn't move at all. Ning Shu wanted to cry from dealing with the star stones. How long would it take to get so many? If this went on, those eyes would pierce her into a sieve. Well, on the path of beginners, if you rush and don't deal with it well, You have to do it again and everyone will collapse. Moreover, there might be new planes that would collapse and produce even more fragments. Ning Shu slowly worked. The rebound force was getting stronger and stronger, as if it was going to bounce her soul away. Ning Shu used a lot of strength to stabilize her soul/BK. Chapter 3079. However, it was very painful. She had to use a lot of strength to deal with it while enduring the pain. Fuck, what kind of work was this? It was like torture. Fortunately, every time she was about to run out of strength and her soul was in pain from the shock, there was a warm current flowing out of the law of life that flowed through her soul, making her soul feel better. Ning Shu was busy processing the star rocks. Some of the big shots were really bored, so they gathered together and chatted or sat cross-legged to cultivate. The scene was really boring. Ning Shu was sweating profusely. She was so busy that she was dying. In the same world, different people. Ning Shu felt sour. If she picked up fragments, she could probably make money now instead of dealing with a mountain of stellar stones. Just dealing with them was the first step. There were still the second and third steps. Ning Shu wiped her face. Probably because she was obsessed with the stellar stones, Ning Shu really couldn't bear to waste a single bit when dealing with them. She scraped off every bit, thinking back to how much money she had spent to get this thing. And recently, she had spent so many merit points to buy stellar stones and build a pool. She didn't know if she could get a bit. Apart from picking up a few scraps, could she get a few pieces? Ning Shu thought bitterly. Dealing with one area was worth 100,000 merit points. Then dealing with 10 damaged areas of the plane was worth 1 million merit points. Thinking about it, it was quite worth it. Ning Shu's granduncle asked, "Can my 1 million fragments and tax punishment be cancelled?" If she didn't talk about conditions when she could, she would be crazy. The granduncle opened his eyes. These are two different things. Don't mix them up. With that, he closed his eyes again. Ning Shu pursed her lips. If she picked up fragments in the future, it would still be at least 1 million. And there hadn't been any tax for hundreds of years. If there were 3 law cities supporting her, she wouldn't be in such a poor state now. Ning Shu was in despair. So much, Ning Shu was like an ant, moving a mountain bit by bit. When she encountered a bigger fragment, she had to crawl and scrape off the stellar stones bit by bit. Working high up in the sky was so dangerous. Ning Shu didn't know how much time had passed, but he felt the gaze on him change from urgency to helplessness, then to despair, and finally to stupefaction. In any case, he had no expectations for himself, especially for the army. They had to delay the plane for so long. They were probably in despair. Ning Shu was also in despair. Even if he wanted to teach someone, this wasn't the right way to do it. By the time all the star rocks were collected, Ning Shu could no longer find himself. His mind was in a mess. Where am I going? Even his soul had become much dimmer. After processing the last star stone, Grand Elder opened his eyes and said, "Now, melt the star stone." Ning Shu sat down and waved his hand. "Let me rest for a while. I can't take it anymore. This is treating people like animals." Tai Shu ignored Ning Shu's rejection and said, "When you melt the star stones, use your rule power and make sure every star stone is melted." Ning Shu was speechless. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Tai Shu picked up a star stone. The star stone slowly melted in his hand, forming a viscous liquid state. "I understand. Try it yourself." Tai Shu's hand tilted and the star stone liquid in his hand fell on the surface of the star stone. Gradually, the liquid began to solidify. Ning Shu picked up a small piece of star stone and put it in his palm. He looked at the star stone. It didn't move at all. Ning Shu said, "I've tried my best. It can't be saved." He was too tired. After processing so many star stones, he still had to melt them into star stones. Tai Shu sat in a chair and leaned back. "You can deal with it when you can." Ning Shu was very upset. This meant that he had to deal with it. Ning Shu concentrated on melting the star stone and used the rule power. The water droplet between his eyebrows was faintly hot and then cooled down. This cycle repeated. Ning Shu suspected that his head was going to be damaged. But fortunately, the star stone showed signs of melting. It's melting! Ning Shu looked at the star stone melting in his hand. It was like mercury, a viscous liquid. You have to melt all the star stones in an instant, Tai Shu said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu sighed. She didn't know what to do. It was very difficult to melt a star stone. How could she melt a mountain of star stones in an instant? As long as it wasn't a pig, it probably wasn't a pig. How could there be a pig smarter than her? What should she do? Ning Shu glanced at Tai Shu. He didn't speak. He just sat in a chair and looked at her. He wasn't a qualified guide. Since he brought her here to do manual labor, he didn't teach her. Ning Shu's hand followed the surface of the star stone and mobilized the rule power. There was a milky white source of life at her fingertips. She gathered her mental strength and began to melt the star stone. Soon, the star stone that came into contact with her hand began to melt first and then radiated out. More and more star stones began to melt, but the energy in Ning Shu's body began to withdraw. Not only the rule power, but also the rule power. The rule of earth on her wrist, the rule of wood between her thumb and forefinger, and the water droplet between her eyebrows were all burning hot. Ning Shu really wanted to withdraw her hand, but half of it had already melted. If she withdrew her hand, all her efforts would be in vain. She had to persist. When all the star stones had melted, Tai Shu said, "Put it in place and face the wall. Use your mental strength as fast as possible." Ning Shu used her mental strength to arrange her mental strength and directly buckled the star stones in the liquid state onto the plane. Not only that, but she also had to spread them evenly on the plane wall. Of course, she also had to use her mental strength, and it had to be evenly distributed. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to smear it on the small places. Ning Shu couldn't grasp the quantity at all. She didn't know if she had enough star stones. If she had more, she wouldn't be afraid. She was afraid that it wouldn't be enough. That would be despair. Seeing that Ning Shu was done, the army dragged the free plane and slammed it against the plane wall that was smeared with star stones. They used the strong adhesive force of the liquid state to stick the plane together. Tai Shu pointed to the place where the plane wall was joined. When the star stones begin to crystallize, it's almost done. But when the outer part begins to crystallize, it doesn't mean that the inner part will also crystallize. You have to wait until the outer part is completely crystallized before you check the situation inside. The heat of the plane collision will slow down the crystallization of the star stones. Use your mental strength to check. Ning Shu released his mental strength, but it was very difficult to penetrate the star stones. The star stones were natural adhesives. It wasn't that easy for mental strength to penetrate them. The outer part had all crystallized, but the inner part hadn't. Tai Shu didn't say that it was done. The army didn't dare to let go. If they did, it would be equivalent to working for nothing. The price was too high. After waiting for a long time, Tai Shu said, "It's done." The army slowly let go. The plane didn't shake, which meant that they had succeeded. /BK. Chapter 3080. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief and patted her shoulder. "I'm going back, I'm too tired." Doing 10 missions was tiring, but fighting was even more tiring. Grand Uncle said, "Keep doing it, someone will take over when the time comes." Ning Shu, huh? It wasn't over yet. Several of her law imprints were already throwing a tantrum. If she forced herself to do it, her imprints would be destroyed in the end. If she didn't cherish herself, who would cherish her? So Ning Shu said directly, "I have no energy left and I can't do it anymore. Even if I lose my life, I can't do it." With her current strength, she still couldn't handle the star stones for a long time. This wasn't like picking up fragments and controlling the law of wood. This was all about her hand-to-hand combat. She couldn't save any trouble. Grand Uncle frowned. He probably didn't expect Ning Shu to be so useless and waste so much of his time. He waved his hand and let her go. Ning Shu didn't hesitate and directly built a space channel to return to the system space. She couldn't take it anymore. When she built the space channel and returned to the system space, Ning Shu was already paralyzed. "I'm too tired, I'll go. I'd better pick up the fragments first." Dealing with the star stones was still beyond her ability. Ning Shu was very clear in her heart, and the strength of her soul wasn't good enough. The law imprint was boiling hot. Ning Shu went to the city of wood and let the law of wood absorb the energy. She also went to the restaurant to eat. Her hand holding the chopsticks was shaking. She felt that the power of the star stones still remained in her soul and hadn't dissipated. Don't tremble. It's like epilepsy. Ning Shu ate with trembling hands. Sure enough, the star stones weren't something that ordinary people could handle. It was better to leave it to those big shots. It was especially tiring. Maybe when she was strong enough, it wouldn't be difficult to deal with the star stones. Her world of reincarnation had evolved into a world. It was probably the star stone that had glued several worlds together. When the law of wood was no longer boiling hot, Ning Shu paid the bill. When she left the restaurant, she strengthened the enchantment of the city. Next, she went to the city of water and the city of earth to absorb the power of law and strengthen the enchantment. However, where could he absorb the law of life? There were law cities, but there were no law cities. The space between his eyebrows was boiling hot, making Ning Shu feel as if his forehead had been splashed with sulfuric acid. This was a symptom of overuse. Ning Shu went to look for the Cheongsam man, but he was told that the Cheongsam man wasn't around. He wanted to go Taba with him, but since the Cheongsam man wasn't around, Ning Shu went to look for Elder Qi alone. Elder Qian was still setting up his stall at the same place. He stroked his beard and asked Ning Shu with a smile, "Do you want to go to the Void World? The Void World is full of treasures." Ning Shu was speechless. Everyone was familiar with each other, so there was no need to brag like this. "What world of treasures?" "Why?" Ning Shu asked, "Are there any popular treasures recently?" There were too many types of treasures, and Ning Shu couldn't recognize all of them. Generally, he would ask about the more popular items. Generally, popular items meant that they were items that the mission enforcers needed. Elder Qian said, "Spirit Stone." Ning Shu thought, "Don't mention these things to me." Elder Qian took out a scroll and said, "Look at this. There are spirit stone mines in this world." He took out another scroll. This world might have secondary fire orbs or heavy fire orbs, which can be used to purify spirit energy. Ning Shu sighed. These were all leftovers. She still had so many spirit stones and 8 fire orbs in her system space. Her spirit energy hadn't taken shape yet, so she couldn't use spirit stones or fire orbs. Ning Shu asked, "Is there anything else? I don't need these things." For example, the world tree, or something with a strong assimilation ability, or something with abundant life force. Now, the space between her eyebrows was burning. The after effects were showing. Elder Qian flipped through the scroll. "Wait, let me look for it. Not many people want things with life force." Since she was in a spirit state, life force wasn't seen by others. "I found it. This is something from a long time ago. I don't know if the Void World still exists. Do you want to buy it?" Elder Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu said, "You don't even know if the Void World still exists. You dare to sell it to me?" Elder Qian said, "I'm only in charge of selling it, not after sales. If there are any problems, you'll have to take care of it yourself." "Then can I see if the Void World still exists?" She just needed to use the spatial tunnel in the scroll to test it. Elder Qian shook his head. "That won't do. This is a one-time use item. If you use it and don't buy it, I'll lose out." Ning Shu was speechless. "Then I'll pass." She didn't have much money now. If she bought an empty shell and the Void World disappeared, it would be a waste of money. Ning Shu sat beside Elder Qian. Elder Qian looked at her from the corner of his eyes. "What are you doing? Are you buying it or not?" "I'll sit for a while." Ning Shu asked Elder Qian, "Aren't you doing missions now?" Elder Qian stroked his beard. "Now that I've changed my profession, I'm not doing missions anymore. I'm starting my own business." Ning Shu asked, "Then when will I be able to leave the mission state?" "I don't know about that. I'm old and don't want to do it anymore. I've separated myself from the system. There's no future in following an old man like me. I'll let the system follow other young people." "Oh, someone like Shu Bai." Once the system separated, It would erase its memory and reformat it. Actually, the system was a little bitter. There was a reason why the organization arranged for two people. One person's skills were weak, while the other two were strong. There was always room for discussion. However, it didn't rule out the possibility of one of them becoming a puppet or the system becoming a background character. Sometimes, the system couldn't control the actions of the mission enforcers and would even be implicated. Ning Shu felt that her relationship with Zheng Qing could be described as that of a puppet. As for Elder Qian saying that he was old, Ning Shu didn't believe him. They were both in spirit form, so there was no way to talk about age. It was just that he gave up halfway and chose another way of life. Under normal circumstances, mission enforcers wouldn't be allowed to leave the mission state. Only by doing missions can one have a future. People like us are useless other than paying taxes to the organization, Elder Qian said casually. The organization needs people who are strong. Ning Shu replied, "You're the embodiment of the space rule. Isn't that strong enough? Tisk, there's always someone stronger. You haven't stepped out of this place yet. How would you know how big the world outside is?" Elder Qian shook his head. Elder Qian was probably bored waiting for business and had someone to chat with. The two of them sat in a dragon's gate for a while. In the end, Ning Shu ended the conversation reluctantly. She wanted to understand other rules. The prophecy rule, the witchcraft rule, and all sorts of other rules were waiting for her to understand. Anyway, there was nothing wrong with learning more. However, dealing with the star stones was beyond her ability for now. /BK Chapter 3081. Elder Qian, you're not buying anything? After talking for so long, was their friendship fake? Ning Shu shook his head. I don't need anything for now. I'll come again next time. Elder Qian, get lost. Ning Shu arrived at Prophecy City. This city was really gaudy. There were all kinds of mirages everywhere. It was dazzling. Furthermore, everyone saw different things. Ning Shu didn't understand the prophecy law at all. As for whether what he saw was real or just a mirage, Ning Shu didn't believe it at all. He treated it as a fart to affect his state of mind. Prophecies were things that he wanted to see. It had nothing to do with the future and was just his own imagination. Ning Shu wandered around the city and found a suitable place to sit down. All kinds of images flashed in front of him. Ning Shu closed his eyes, but these things appeared directly in his mind. You're really all-pervasive. I'll be damned if I believe you. Ning Shu was like an old monk in meditation. After a long time, he seemed to wake up from a nap. I didn't understand anything? Ning Shu didn't understand what had happened. Could it be that he had blocked these things? Prophecies were actually precise calculations. They calculated the possible future situations. In other words, anything could happen in the future. So these things had to be accepted. Whether her soul was destroyed, she was strong, she was bullied, or she died on the battlefield, these things had to be accepted. All right, Ning Shu didn't even blink. He looked at the images one by one. His fingers moved slightly. His mind was calculating rapidly. What were the chances of him appearing in the images? In the end, his mind was numb. He finally came to a conclusion. These were all possible outcomes. She would either die or become strong. If I ask you, do you think I don't know? Ning Shu rolled his eyes. He didn't know who the prophecy law incarnate was. Could she make a prophecy for him? He felt that prophecies were probably things that couldn't be made by people who were stronger than him. The weaker the living being, the easier it was to make a prophecy. The stronger the prophecy, the more likely it would backfire. Speaking of which, this law was actually a little useless. It was not bad to be a quack. Being able to see through someone's life with a single glance was indeed quite godly. However, life is full of all kinds of changes. A river forks and flows in different directions. In any case, it was not a burden to have more skills. If he could comprehend them, he would not force himself to do so. It was not like the law of space, where he had to learn it. Now that Ning Shu could construct a spatial tunnel that was relatively far away, he still wanted to comprehend the laws of time. Space and time were two high-level laws, so comprehending these two was not wrong. He decided not to comprehend the witchcraft law for the time being. After exchanging for the faith bell, he would be immune to many curses. Moreover, there was an annoying person there. When he saw dog shit, of course he had to avoid it. He couldn't just step on it. Once he was able to process a large amount of star stones and increase his value, he would deal with that person. Ning Shu's schedule was packed. Although he was comprehending the laws of prophecy, his mind was filled with thoughts. Of course, the consequence of this was that the law of prophecy was even less compatible with him. Ning Shu immediately adjusted his mentality. No matter what kind of law it was useful. There were no useless laws, only useless mission enforcers. Ning Shu took a deep breath and then began to comprehend the laws of prophecy wholeheartedly. All kinds of messy information exploded in front of him. Frame by frame, all kinds of sounds mixed together. There were sounds of tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, human voices, animal voices, and all kinds of sounds that could directly penetrate the soul. Ning Shu felt unwell all over. The sounds and images were especially annoying. Ning Shu wanted to give up, but at least he had persisted until now. What could be more terrifying than now? His sister had seen the world, so she was not afraid of this little thing. Moreover, the images were getting worse and worse. Ning Shu suddenly felt that he was sitting on the edge of a cliff. Below was a dark abyss, and he could not see anything. His sudden appearance caused people to feel nervous. Ning Shu steadied herself. She was a soul, so she could fly. Suddenly, a meteorite appeared in front of her at high speed, heading straight for her face. Ning Shu could not help but want to tilt his head to avoid the meteorite, but his thoughts were fake. The meteorite hit his face, and an invisible barrier shattered the meteor. It exploded in front of Ning Shu with a loud bang. If he had a physical body, Ning Shu suspected that he would have been turned into atoms by the sound waves. He would be annihilated in an instant and cease to exist. Fuck, he was quite scared. Ning Shu floated in the sea. The waves came one after another. Even if Ning Shu was the embodiment of the law of water, he could not use the law of water in this situation. He flopped in the sea. They watched in despair as wave after wave crashed against them. Ning Shu steadied his mind. Fuck, comprehending the law was like reading an adventure. It shook his mind. It challenged the fear in his heart. Ning Shu could still deal with these natural challenges. He felt the power of nature. These were not strong powers to him. However, the void was destroyed by the Grand Elder's spear and turned into darkness. This was what Ning Shu was afraid of. He was eaten by the monster and became a part of the nutrients for the insect monster's evolution. He disappeared completely. This time, it was fear. Or he was crushed to death by the giant. Those tall and strong giants. Ning Shu would only feel fear when her life was threatened, and her life was threatened. Ning Shu did not know how long this image would last, but it was very taxing on his mind. Once his mind was not firm, his heart would be occupied by fear. He did not know if he could wake up. He also did not know what kind of harm it would cause him if he forced himself to wake up. It was hard to get off now. Ning Shu decided to persevere. Even if he was afraid of these things, they were real and might happen. This might be something that he knew about the future. So what if it was a prophecy? He might not be lucky to know his fate. Ning Shu was angry. Let's see what else you can do to scare me. The image changed. Ning Shu saw many giants that were as big as Jing Qing fighting with each other. A giant fell to the ground with a thud. Countless worlds in his body were exploding. The giant's body was fragmented. At that moment, countless creatures and worlds were wailing. She was like an ant. She hugged her head and fled between these giants. She was afraid that a giant would smash her to death. Ning Shu was speechless. This image really scared him. Ning Shu was stunned. He did not even know how to react. /BK Chapter 3084. No, I'm ignorant. Hey, don't just talk. Continue to deal with the star stones. How can you be so irresponsible? Who didn't know how to accuse others? Ning Shu said cheekily. The entire organization was haggling over every detail. They couldn't wait to split the merit points into two halves. How could he still have the face to say that he wasn't petty? Senior uncle stared at Ning Shu. Ning Shu touched his heart. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm scared. I didn't do anything wrong. You can't erase me. Senior uncle sighed in the end. Don't argue with an idiot. Only an idiot would argue with an idiot. Ning Shu snorted twice and released even more vines. The vines covered the sky, and some people came over to let Ning Shu pick up the broken pieces. Ning Shu accepted the order with a smile. He received 100,000 merit points and gave 100,000 fragments to the big boss. The big boss took the fragments and left. Ning Shu asked Senior Uncle, "Is my rule power too weak? Is that why I'm so tired?" Senior Uncle, "Yes." Ning Shu nodded. Then she should strengthen the power of the rule of life. How to strengthen it might have something to do with her perception. Senior Uncle finished dealing with the star stones. He looked very relaxed, completely different from her tired appearance. Ning Shu asked, "Every time you deal with it, does the organization give you money?" Senior Uncle, "The organization is mine. Do I need the organization to give me money?" "Oh my, this is incredible." The Grand Uncle grinned. With his foggy glasses, he looked very cold. He said in an indifferent tone, "I'm too direct. The organization should belong to everyone. Let's build a harmonious and prosperous organization together." Ning Shu laughed. It wasn't funny at all. Ning Shu didn't want to discuss the ownership of the organization. "Are there any extra star stones this time? Can I take a few?" Senior Uncle, "No." Ning Shu wasn't disappointed. He put away the vines and prepared to pick up some leftover materials. This time, when he was trying to get the star stones, he was too nervous and didn't pick up the leftovers. The Grand Elder melted the star stone very quickly. It melted in the blink of an eye and was soon on the bit wall. His series of actions were very smooth. Even a painter is so generous. All of you are generous, okay? After the planes were glued together, they rushed to the next place. This time, the world of Samsara was broken. The void of the world of Samsara was gray. "Let me come this time. I feel that I should be able to handle the star rocks in the world of reincarnation." She treated it as practice in advance. She had the world of reincarnation, so it should be easier for her to handle. The Grand Elder sneered, "Do you think this is a game? If you want to do it, then do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it." Ning Shu exclaimed, "I realize that you people are really speechless. When I don't want to do it, you say I'm useless. When I want to do it, you say I'm just a game. So, what do you want me to do? I'll send you to your death. Good or bad, it's all up to you. I can only accept your judgment." The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. "You seem to have a lot of grievances. What right do you have to question me? Grievances don't exist. I'm just not used to you guys changing your state at any time," Ning Shu said. The Grand Elder said, "I'm like this. Whether you're used to it or not, it has nothing to do with me. Your grievances have nothing to do with me." Ning Shu spread his hands. "I don't intend to get used to you. What kind of person you are has nothing to do with me. Then I won't deal with it." The Grand Elder said, "If you deal with it now and don't handle it properly, you'll have to pay with your life. What you're dealing with is not a toy. You shouldn't have the attitude of trying. You should know the consequences." Ning Shu was speechless. In close contact, he realized that this person was even worse than he imagined. As he said, "If you have the ability, kill him." "I don't have the ability now. I'll bear with it." Ning Shu took the tool in his hand and began to process the gray star stones. The star stones in the life plane were bright, but the star stones in the world of reincarnation were gray and had no luster. Ning Shu used the tool to scrape the star stones. The power of the star stones was indeed strong. Ning Shu's hand was numb from the recoil. The Grand Elder pulled a chair and sat next to him, closing his eyes to rest. The big shots who were picking up the fragments and the army holding the plane were all in despair. This little girl was dealing with it again. How long would she have to wait? His Excellency walked over in the air with a child. He had just collected the souls of the broken plane and planned to come over to talk to the Grand Elder. Seeing that Ning Shu was busy processing the star stones, She took the child and turned to leave. When Ning Shu swung his arm, he found His Excellency and immediately waved. The Grand Elder opened his eyes and saw His Excellency. He saw him holding a child and looking at the child. His Excellency had no choice but to come over with the child. He also pulled a chair and sat down. He said to the Grand Elder, "There's no way to continue like this. The plane is getting more and more damaged. Because the Sea of Laws has dried up, it can no longer provide energy for the plane. The plane has lost its ability to heal itself. The human immune system had lost its function. A little virus and bacteria could infect a person and end their life." Ning Shu listened to the conversation between the two with his sharp ears while looking at the 7 or 8-year-old child. This child was crystal clear. He had grape-like eyes and white and tender skin. He was very cute. Looking at his clothes, he should be a boy. His Excellency was teaching him to be a man. The boy smiled at Ning Shu, revealing his white teeth. But his teeth turned into sharp teeth. They were shiny and wanted to bite people. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at him. In the end, the child couldn't withstand Ning Shu's gaze and looked away. "If you want to eat me, you have to be prepared to vomit and have diarrhea." Ning Shu focused on processing the spirit stones. The topic of discussion between the Grand Elder and His Excellency wasn't something she could solve or worry about, so she didn't care. Ning Shu shook his hand and calmed down to process the star stones. His processing speed was a little faster. During this time, His Excellency stuffed a black pearl into the child's mouth. In such a pearl, there was the soul of a reincarnation world. It was stuffed into the child's mouth as a snack. If he didn't eat it, these souls would have nowhere to go. Now, this child's appetite had become so big. He could eat the soul of a world in one bite. How terrifying! His own world wasn't enough for him to eat. The child smacked his lips as if he was still savoring the taste. He shook his head in dissatisfaction. The Grand Elder held his forehead and listened to His Excellency's words. His Excellency only said one sentence, "Do as you see fit." His tone was a little helpless. "What you're doing now is all deceiving yourself and others. The Sea of Laws no longer provides energy. Even if the planes are glued together, there won't be any energy transmitted through the star stones. So, what difference does it make whether these planes are glued together or not? /BK. Chapter 3085. Grand Uncle, it's already old and decayed. It's been around for too long. We've lived for too long. If you can't bear to part with Xingqing, you have to make a final decision. To be swallowed by them or to cut off my own path of survival and leave my dignity behind. I'll listen to you." His Excellency shook his head and left with the child. The Grand Elder took off his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. His nose was pinched red. Without the cover of his glasses, the Grand Elder's eyes were dark and gloomy, suffocating and ominous. Seeing Ning Shu staring at him, he said, "I'll deal with you." Ning Shu didn't say anything and just scraped the star stone. Perhaps she was used to the rebound power of the star stone. Ning Shu felt that it was a little faster to deal with the star stone. Could it be that she was really used to the power of the star stone? After picking up all the fragments, Ning Shu was still dealing with the star stone. Everyone was staring at her. Some people sincerely suggested, "Little girl, you're more talented at picking up fragments. Don't deal with the star stone." Maybe they wouldn't have to pick up the fragments in the future. She could deal with it alone. This job was mandatory. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come. Ning Shu just smiled and didn't say anything. She had a world to live in. How could she ask someone like the Grand Uncle to deal with it? She had to rely on herself. Ning Shu dealt with the star stone alone. It wasn't that these big shots didn't know how to deal with the star stone, but they didn't want to be tired. She didn't want to be tired either. She wasn't stupid. She didn't know how these big shots dealt with problems in their worlds. Ning Shu scraped the last fragment clean and said to the Grand Uncle, "It's done." The Grand Uncle put on his glasses. "Continue." Ning Shu began to melt the star stone. The Grand Uncle said, "There aren't enough star stones this time. Can't you see?" Ning Shu thought, no wonder it was done so early. After a while, the army brought over a lot of star stones. They poured them out bag by bag. If you don't have any, try going to the plane to look for them. These star stones should have been lost there, the Grand Elder said calmly. His tone was light, and he wasn't even strict or evil. But this made him even more nervous. Ning Shu swallowed nervously. He still had to go to the plane to search. How much time would that waste? Ning Shu began to melt the star stone. After melting, he smeared it on the bit wall as fast as he could. At this time, it was a test of one's mental strength. If one's mental strength was proficient, it would be easy to do things. Ning Shu felt that he should go back and practice his spiritual power. If he picked up his hair, his spiritual power would become more skillful. The collision between the two planes produced a muffled sound, but with the viscous star stones acting as a buffer, the collision between the two planes was not a big deal. Now, he was waiting for the star stone to solidify. Ning Shu observed the solidification of the star stone. She had completed the bonding of the planes by herself. She should be able to do it alone in the future. 100,000 at a time, and 10 times a million at a time. This was enough for Skeleton to last for a while. He couldn't grasp the amount of star stones. He didn't know if it was more or less. There wasn't a specific amount. It all depended on the situation of the planes breaking away. If there were more planes breaking away, more star stones would be needed. Ning Shu was proud of this success. He thanked everyone for their support. Of course, this was his effort. The Grand Elder said, "You go and pick up the fragments." Ning Shu agreed and followed him to the next place where the plane was broken. His Excellency said that it didn't make much difference whether these planes were glued together or not. But if these planes were left to wander and the fragments were not dealt with, these intact planes would also suffer. The Grand Elder called the eldest uncle and Fragrant Wind over and disappeared in a flash. Ning Shu guessed that he must have gone to find Jingqing. With so many planes, looking for one person was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Fragrant Wind was in a military uniform. Looking at the mountainous star stones, he sighed. His expression didn't look good. Ning Shu felt that his expression should be the same as Fragrant Wind's when he dealt with the star stones. Suddenly, he felt that picking up the fragments was so easy. It was like playing. Fragrant Wind said to Ning Shu, "Come and help me deal with it." Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at Fragrant Wind. He asked seriously, "Everyone can deal with it. Why do you want me to help?" Fragrant Wind said directly, "You're new. Who will do it if not you?" Ning Shu had a look of understanding on her face. She then asked, "If I refuse, will it be because I don't know what's good for me and then it will be my fault?" Fragrant Wind nodded. "Of course it's your fault. It turns out that I'm easy to bully. I don't know what's good for me if I don't follow others' wishes. Like the company, interns were cheap labor. If you were asked to do it, it would be your honor. If you refused, it would be ungrateful and ungrateful. The organization recruited you and asked you to do things. You didn't know what's good for you and even talked about conditions. God, you should shine and work hard without complaint. You should have no desires and die for the organization." Ning Shu asked, "If I help, will you give me some of the reward?" Fragrant Wind said, "I'm asking you to help. I'm not the one paying." Ning Shu said, "Oh, I refuse. The job that pays me is to pick up fragments. I can't not do what I'm supposed to do and help you." Uncle Chang chuckled. Fragrant Wind glanced at him. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny? Why are you bullying the little girl?" The little girl was originally trembling in fear. If you bully her like this, she'll find trouble with you when she comes back to her senses. "Let me tell you, don't mess with women," Uncle Chang said as he dealt with the star stones. "TSK, you're used to pretending to be a good person. It's fine to trick an ignorant girl," Fragrant Wind said with disdain. Uncle Chang wasn't angry. He took out the star stones. "Because I'm a good person. A good person will live a peaceful life." Fragrant Wind was probably so disgusted by Uncle Chang that he couldn't speak. Ning Shu sat at the side and controlled the vines. He felt that it was boring watching the two of them hurt each other. He suddenly thought of something and asked Uncle Chang, "I heard that you created a space for mission enforcers and the system to coexist. Then, did you also create the space for me and Jingqing? Seems like it. Jingqing is too noisy, so it needs to be reinforced, Uncle Chang said. Ning Shu blinked. So you guys know me? Uncle Chang smiled and said, yes, I know you. I was still thinking about when I should change Jingqing's space. Light and cruel. Ning Shu didn't feel anything when he heard this. Maybe Jingqing was angry with these people, but he was also tired of living in such a delicate situation. Otherwise, he would have died in his ignorance. Ning Shu cursed in his heart. He almost lost his life. If he came just a little bit earlier, he would have died. /BK. Chapter 3086. Uncle still looked like a good old man. He was gentle and had a smile on his face. From his body, he did not seem to have the arrogance of the other big shots. It was as though he was a polite man. Ning Shu suddenly laughed and said, if there is a problem with the Sea of Laws, everyone will die in the future, although we cannot be born in the same year, month and day, but we can die in the same year and month. And he glanced at her, you even know about the Sea of Laws. Ning Shu nodded, I have been scolded by all of you, I have been despised by all of you. If I do not know any news, or my own situation, I should really die. Because of Zheng Qing, she was forced into a circle that did not belong to her, she was kicked around like a ball, and the people around her laughed at her. She directly despised him, and the people around her laughed, she was called here and left at will, she said some conditions, it was her fault. Ning Shu thought about it now, her expression at that time was filled with fear, but she did not know it. She handed over what she had with both hands, traded with others, and talked about conditions, it seemed to be her fault as well. She had paid double the price, and these people were trading with her while looking down on her, saying that she did not know what was good for her, that she was stingy, that she was not magnanimous. If anyone were to talk to her about magnanimous, she would definitely spit at them, I spat on your face, and you actually did not forgive me, how can you be so magnanimous? A few million merit points to buy a star rock, but in reality, a star rock was 20,000 merit points, of course, that was the wholesale price, if not, it would not reach a few million merit points. In truth, it was her own stupidity to be cheated, she had to find others to trade with. At that time, the nihility laws were about to leak out, and being cheated was something that could not be blamed. Ning Shu thought about it now, but there was not a single ripple in her heart. Who did not take a detour, being mocked for being stupid was also a thing of the past. Sometimes, living was not an easy thing, especially if one wanted to live a carefree life, it was even more difficult. Say no. Fuck, you don't know what is good for you. Ning Shu looked at I hate you the most. And he said indifferently, I don't need you to like me. Ning Shu nodded, that's right, if the Law Sea really collapses, will you die? And Chang Bo smiled and shook his head. It's not like that. You will die, but some people won't. We have methods to preserve our lives. The collapse of the algorithmic sea is nothing more than one less place for us to live. Ning Shu chuckled. You speak as if you can find a new place to live. If they could find a place to live, then Abyssal Prefect wouldn't have said those words to the Grand Uncle. When faced with the threat of death, Ning Shu's heart suddenly relaxed. Let's go hand in hand and die together. Whoever doesn't die is a bastard. Ning Shu was no longer afraid. What was there to be afraid of? When the time came, everyone would die together. It was the end of the world. When I'm not even afraid of death, there's nothing to be afraid of. Until now, only the fear of death could threaten her. Seeing the two of them handling the star rocks while she leisurely controlled the vines to pick up the fragments, she felt inexplicably happy. Little girl, 100,000 fragments. A person walked over and said to Ning Shu, all right, keep the fragments well. Ning Shu received 100,000 contribution points and gave her 5 bags of fragments. She was now selling fragments. Uncle Chang was handling the star rocks. Seeing Ning Shu's carefree look, the fear in his body suddenly disappeared. He said, you seem to have some misunderstanding about the Law Sea. Even if you die, it will still be there. A few 100,000 years is nothing to us, and the Law Sea still has a few 100,000 years. The premise is that you can live until we die together. Ning Shu only said, don't worry, don't worry. I will try my best to live until then. Don't worry. Uncle Chang's face was good. What am I worried about? You're worried that I won't be able to see the Law Sea collapsing. Don't worry, I will definitely try my best to live until then. If I don't see that kind of destruction in this life, the beauty of tragedy, then I would have lived in vain. Ning Shu said with a smile. Ning Shu felt that his current state of mind was like a carnival before the end of the world. Although it was very far away from the end of the world, Ning Shu's mind was very calm, without any fear. Uncle Chang, it's good to think that way. Grand Uncle said that you can handle the star rocks independently. You will take over later. Uncle Chang said. Ning Shu shook his head. Although I can handle it independently, I don't want to. I want to pick up the fragments. After I'm done, I want to do the mission. Although these worlds are going to be finished, we still have to look at the present. Everyone will die eventually. Do what you need to do. Everyone knew that they were going to die, but no one would do nothing just because they were going to die. Instead of being fearful of eternal life that had no end and fearful of dying in the next second, knowing that they were going to die eventually made them feel more relaxed. When it was time to die, then die. Do what you need to do and work hard. No one knew what you would achieve, but no one could make her die before the Law Sea collapsed. And he frowned and wanted to say something, but Ning Shu interrupted him. Don't spit out evil words to me. I don't like to hear these words at all. Uncle Chang laughed. Knowing that the Law Sea is going to collapse, you let yourself go. Do you want the Law Sea to collapse? Ning Shu snorted. Don't put such a big hat on me. What do you mean I want the Law Sea to collapse? The Law Sea has problems to begin with. These problems were not caused by me. Knowing that my mission has an end, I'm very happy. This has nothing to do with hope. Ning Shu calculated. By the time the Law Sea collapsed, she would have lived long enough. Many hundreds of thousands of years. Uncle Chang, all right. You're right. Do you want to take over? Ning Shu shook his head. He stood up and patted the non-existent dust off himself. Sorry, I'm a very stingy person. I'm not changing. Furthermore, the main system did not arrange for me. The main system arranged for me. I will do what I need to do. Not everyone was ordering her to do this and that. It was as if anyone could order her around. Sorry, I won't do it now. You can just kill me. Not only am I stingy, but I also don't know what's good for me. He would even complain that she did not do well. She had already reached the number of 1 million and earned a sum of money. She could go back. The people here were all big shots. Once they were done, she would be a joke if she stayed here. Ning Shu used the spatial node provided by the system space to construct a spatial passage and left. Furthermore, he did not even look back. Uncle Chang wiped his sweat. The power of the star rock was especially strong. This was the most annoying. /BK. Chapter 3087. Uncle Chang said to He, don't mess with girls. Women are petty and hold grudges. You've messed with her. On the phone. And he rolled his eyes. Obviously, she doesn't like you. She can handle the star stones on her own, which means that the power of the law is not weak. She'll probably take turns with Grand Uncle. If she doesn't come, the two of us will replace Grand Uncle. I don't have the patience to deal with this. Uncle Chang handled the star stones. The power of the star stones was especially harmful to the soul. The inside of the plane was regulated by the heavenly axiom, which made the plane endlessly grow. The outside was protected by the star stones. They could also protect the plane. The star stones were difficult to handle because they could attack and were also protected by the law. If an ordinary soul handled the star stones, it might be directly annihilated. Therefore, the star stones would consume the soul. Not only would it consume the soul, but it would also cause damage to the body. This damage was very small, but it could cause a lot of damage over time. Some methods were needed to heal it. It's not fun at all. I prefer to make props in space systems. Looking at the mission enforcers and the system in a small space system is so warm and cute. Uncle Chang sighed. And he frowned. As a straight man, it was a bit difficult for him to adapt. "Can you not be so disgusting? You people don't understand warmth." And he turned his back to Uncle Chang and handled the star stones. Ning Shu returned to the system space and absorbed some soul power. When he handled the star stones, his soul became dim again. No wonder no one handled the star stones. Not only was it tiring, but it also affected the soul. She was stingy, but the organization was also stingy. The soul power he had stored up earlier was almost gone. Soul power was something that could not be bought. Even if he worked himself to death, he would only earn 100,000 contribution points for each trip of star stones. She didn't want to do things that others didn't want to do. She didn't know what was good for her. She deserved to be bullied. Ning Shu thought that if he hadn't been chosen as a mission enforcer, he would have been reincarnated many times. He would have been a human, an animal, an insect, and then slowly dissipated. After the idea of immortality faded a little, Ning Shu felt that reincarnation was not something difficult to accept. If it was a human, they would suffer for the rest of their lives. If it was an animal, they would be ignorant for the rest of their lives. In the end, they would be slaughtered or hunted down by their natural enemies. There was also a possibility that they would become an insect that lived and died at night. Their souls would be so weak that they would disappear. There would be a day when it would disappear. It was only a matter of time. When the sea of law collapsed, she would also dissipate. There was no difference. The only difference was how long she lived. Immortality, which was too ethereal, made her tremble with fear. Knowing that he was going to die, his feet felt steady instead. It was as if immortality was a great gift from the organization. Now, this gift seemed as weak as paper. Once it was broken, the relationship between the mission enforcers and the organization would be nothing more than a relationship between enslaved and enslaved. However, some people took this slavery as a great gift. How could you not know what's good for you? They didn't even give him an equal and mutually beneficial relationship. They were clearly using each other, but they twisted it into a gift. Ning Shu had heard too many people saying that they didn't know what was good for them. The price of immortality was to cut off all escape routes. Ordinary souls could start anew, but mission enforcers couldn't. It was probably because the organization was afraid that mission enforcers would be distracted and think too much, so they cut off all escape routes. There was only one path for you to walk, and everyone had to cross a single plank bridge. They were given a chance to be strong, but this strength was also earned by oneself. Could it be that when the organization helped people become strong and gave them the power of the soul, they still had to carry the burden and move forward? It was clearly a matter of mutual benefit, but Ning Shu was annoyed by people looking at her as if she was ungrateful and didn't know what was good for her. Did she not do what she should do? Was it because she wasn't kind and benevolent and took on everything herself, like a selfless person bearing all the responsibilities? Her relationship with the skeleton was just a relationship of using. She made the skeleton to protect the world of reincarnation, and the skeleton used her strength to obtain resources from her. It was a matter of mutual benefit and not a matter of bestowment. Ning Shu let out a long breath, and the anger that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time was let out. Every time she faced other people's disdainful eyes, she retorted because she didn't know what was good for her. Well, she would be even more ungrateful and petty in the future. What can you do to me when I'm like this? I don't want to, but I will do what I should do. Ning Shu let out a breath. Even if she died in the future, she wouldn't die so easily. What was there to be afraid of? She was clearly in a soul state, but Ning Shu didn't know why she had so much exhalation. It was probably because she had been holding in her anger in the past. Ning Shu patted her chest and said quietly, "I won't be bullied in the future. I'm going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter. Immortality is just a water moon mirror flower." Since she was given immortality, why did so many mission enforcers die, get erased, or die in the mission, and die in various ways? It was said to be immortality, but it was actually a lifetime. Ordinary souls could reincarnate many times. She had been on the brink of death many times. She should have understood earlier that immortality was a false proposition. She didn't blame the organization, but her own brain wasn't clear enough. She held on to an illusory thing as a treasure. She had clearly encountered too many deaths, but her brain was stupid. She deserved to be laughed at because she was really stupid. She was so stupid that she ignored something that truly existed and treated a joke like a pursuit. This pursuit itself was wrong, and it made her life so suffocating. This was probably because she knew she was going to die. Like what her uncle said, she let go of herself. Death was no longer something she was afraid of. She had nothing to fear now. If she still held in her anger before death, she would have lived her life in vain. Ning Shu let out her last breath and smiled. The water droplet mark between her eyebrows was hot, and there was the sound of water flowing by. The mark emitted specks of light, and it was so hot that Ning Shu felt like her brain was going to melt. The world above her head began to grow. Tree trunks, branches, and fingernail-sized leaves grew. It moved from the top of her head to Ning Shu's palm. Ning Shu looked at the world tree in his palm and touched it with his other hand. It was real. There was an inexplicable power as soon as he touched it. It had exuberant vitality and a dark aura of death. Ning Shu smiled bitterly. What immortality? Only life and death were real. The organization drew a big pie, and it was an illusory pie. The organization didn't even take it seriously. When someone was erased or died, everyone thought it was natural. No one thought about the immortality the organization had bestowed. Since it was immortality, why would one die? /BK. Chapter 3088. To think that he had the world of samsara, he could even ignore death. How blind must he be? Ning Shu now realized that his previous thinking was very contradictory. He took immortality for granted, but he was careful not to let himself die. Ning Shu touched the world tree. He worked hard to accumulate and increase his energy. He did not want to be erased. This was his suspicion and distrust of immortality. On one hand, he had the gift of immortality. On the other hand, he was afraid of being erased. The mark between his eyebrows was sometimes cold and sometimes hot. Ning Shu felt like he was going to catch a cold. Ning Shu put away the world tree. He was really relieved. Fortunately, the potted world tree did not grow on his head. Knowing that it was not suitable for him to stay in his head, the world tree also moved. The world tree hid in the soul. Ning Shu picked up the mirror and looked at the situation on his forehead. The mark was surrounded by a little fluorescent light. It made the mark deeper, more three-dimensional, and more mysterious. It was sometimes cold and sometimes hot. It was uncomfortable. One moment the soul was about to melt, and the next moment it could freeze the soul. He did not know when it ended. Ning Shu lay on the sofa without moving. He closed his eyes and rested. It was dark in front of him, but suddenly there was a light. One dark and one bright alternated with each other, mixed with a ding-dong sound. Ning Shu fell asleep, and it was forced. After becoming a soul, Ning Shu had never been so sleepy. He obediently closed his eyes and slept. Anyway, it was in the system space. There was no danger. When he woke up, Ning Shu felt so comfortable. He had never felt so comfortable before. It was as if there was a stone pressing on his heart. Now the stone was removed. It was too easy. Ning Shu stretched. He looked at his clothes and saw that they had changed again. It was a black dress with a long skirt and a tube top. It was tightly attached to his body. Ning Shu touched his chest. It used to be flat. Although it was not big now, there was a curve. The size was just right. Ning Shu picked up the mirror and looked. His face used to be pale. Now he had peach blossom eye makeup and eyeliner. This permanent makeup was not bad. The mark between his eyebrows had a small fluorescent halo around it, as if it was reflecting the light. Ning Shu sighed. Why are you so beautiful? He didn't know what kind of law had modified her soul. It was probably the law of life or the law of water. He felt that the law of water would not have such a sharp and dark wind. It was most likely the law of life. Life has a beginning and an end. There is life and death. The cycle goes back and forth. This was probably the dark side of death of the law of life. Ning Shu touched her face and felt that the makeup suited her current state of mind. Joy surged in her heart. Perhaps it was because of the law of prophecy, Ning Shu knew that there was a change in her world of reincarnation. Ning Shu raised the umbrella and smiled at the mirror. At that moment, Ning Shu was stunned by himself. She could be so beautiful. This beauty was a symbol of strength. It was the law's modification of her soul. The law was creating a better and better version of her. Ning Shu walked into the world of reincarnation. He didn't go to the first world of reincarnation. Instead, he went to the second world of reincarnation. This world of reincarnation was very big. It had already grown to the size of the first world of reincarnation. A black sandy ground was slowly becoming moist. Then, it slowly accumulated into puddles. The puddles converged into a pool. The pool transformed into various beautiful scenes. Fragrant flowers grew around the pool. These flowers brought the scent of happiness to people. In the future, this pool would grow bigger and bigger. Ning Shu smiled. Another world of reincarnation had been born. Perhaps not long after, souls would be brought into this world to undergo reincarnation. However, the first world of reincarnation was enough for the souls of Nine Palace Mountain. This world didn't seem to be connected to the world of living beings. If I'm empty, I'll be happy. I have a house. If I don't live in it, I'll be happy too. Ning Shu stood beside the moist sand and smiled. His entire body was relaxed. There was nothing more important than his own happiness. Ning Shu entered the world of Nine Palace Mountain and collected some power of faith. There was power of faith in the third world. It was provided by those uncivilized people. When he entered this world, he heard all sorts of chants that he couldn't understand. He collected many threads of power of faith. The power of faith in the fourth layer was provided by those women who were saved. These women lived in secluded valleys and cultivated peerless martial arts. Occasionally, they would come out to save women who were in desperate situations. If there were abandoned baby girls, they would bring them back to raise them. This would probably form a country of women. The last time Ning Shu came, there weren't so many people. This village was very big. There were many people living here. They were all women. They were both old and young. However, all of them tidied themselves up well. Even if they didn't have any jewelry on their heads, they would put a flower in their hair. It was flourishing. This was because these women all cultivated peerless martial arts. No matter what they did, they had strength. Sometimes, they couldn't do things and needed men to solve them. Moreover, they had fighting strength. Occasionally, they would come out to teach men a lesson. Gradually, they became famous. Of course, some of the women who had lived in the valleys since young had never seen the outside world, so they treated it well. Even if the elders said that men weren't good, it couldn't stop these young ladies from treating men well. Of course, there were also women who fell in love with each other. Being a lesbian was also love. Some young ladies snuck out to face the temptations of the world and the temptations of men. Ning Shu stood in the clouds and looked down at the village. He didn't appear. Instead, he collected many threads of power of faith. The fate of these people wasn't Ning Shu's responsibility. If she saved them, she would be responsible. Should she be responsible? Perhaps that was why she wasn't likable. She was irresponsible. Perhaps it was because she had to pay the medical fees and take care of them until they were discharged. Only then would she be responsible. She had already given them a place to stay. If she didn't cherish it and attracted people who she shouldn't have, it was up to her. Anyone with a brain would understand that this was their foothold. Moreover, the people in power outside the valley were searching for these women. After all, it was a mysterious organization and they were all women. If a man didn't treat a woman well, these women would suddenly descend from the sky and beat him up. Who knew if it was because of the existence of these people, but the women became more confident. Even if the men wanted to hit the women, they would hesitate before doing so. When they abandoned their wives and children, no matter what status they had, they might be found by those mysterious women. /BK Chapter 3089. This was probably the earliest women's federation organization. Therefore, as long as one was strong, one would not be bullied. If one fell behind, one would be beaten. If one did not work hard and shout for oneself, would others help you? Ning Shu put away these threads of faith power. These faith power were the key to destroying the disaster beasts. Ning Shu was patrolling the Nine Palace Mountain world, looking for any treasures along the way. In the void, Tai Shu scanned the plain again and again, looking for Jingqing. Suddenly, he stopped and entered the plain in front of him. Enter the capital and kill the fatuous ruler. Kill the fatuous ruler. Kill the fatuous ruler. Clean up the ruler's subordinates. Clean up the ruler's subordinates. Outside the city walls, there were shouts. They were like roaring tigers, shaking the city walls and causing dust to fall. Outside the city walls, groups of people in ragged clothes held weapons. These weapons were either hatchets, sickles, or wooden sticks. Attack the city. We have food. We have food. Our wives and children have food to eat. Attack the city. Attack the city. Attack the city. Attack the city. The shouts were not in sync, but these old, young, and even young people's faces were filled with desire and even fanaticism. They waved the weapons in their hands. This was a war caused by hunger. The war happened because they were too hungry and forced to a dead end. Tai Shu stood in the air and looked at these people. An old man with a hunched back raised a sickle and shouted at the top of his lungs. His old face was full of vicissitudes. He seemed to feel something. He looked up and saw Tai Shu, but as if he did not see anything, he shouted as well. His voice was haggard and hoarse. Tai Shu walked towards him. Tai Shu's appearance made many people look at him. The shouting became sparse as they stared at the man in strange clothes who suddenly appeared. Who was this person? Tai Shu's hands were wearing white gloves. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the old man and grabbed his neck, not giving the old man a chance to speak. How dare you? What are you doing? Who is this person? It's the enemy. He's killing our soldiers. These people raised their hoes and sickles to slash at Tai Shu, but they were blocked by an invisible barrier. Some people murmured, "Immortal? Immortal?" The Grand Elder threw the old man's body away, but his hand was still clutching the neck of a young man. Everyone was at a loss. They looked at the old man's body, and then at the two of them. The Grand Elder grabbed Jingqing's neck and flashed into the void. Jingqing didn't look too good. I was in the old man's body and used the decaying aura to hide my existence. How did you find me? Grand Uncle, it's not about how you hide. It's about whether I want to find you or not. Jingqing sneered, his expression fierce. But why? The Grand Elder said calmly and indifferently, because I'm grabbing your neck now, and you're not grabbing mine. When you can grab my neck, I won't ask why. Jingqing was grabbed by the Grand Elder and brought to a void. There was a huge body in this void. Jingqing looked at his body and revealed a smile that wasn't a smile. He said strangely, "Aren't you the most hypocritical person who values life? The world in my body will also be annihilated by the law of nothingness? Why don't you feel bad?" The Grand Elder ignored Jingqing's sarcasm. It doesn't matter. Just wait for the new sea of law to be born. Don't you see all life as ants? Why do you care about those planes? Grand Elder, can you not fucking disgust me? Creating a new sea of law isn't just because you want to live. Use me to exchange for your life. Jingqing was like a dog that had been forced into a dead end. He bared his teeth and wanted to tear everything apart. The Grand Elder was still indifferent. If you grab me now, you can also use my life to exchange for yours. Hee, it's just a winner takes all. Jingqing smiled at the Grand Elder. I'd rather self-destruct and find a way to live. I won't be immersed in the law of nothingness anymore. Grand Elder, don't bully people too much. Over and over again. What do you take me for? Can you peel off that hypocritical and disgusting face of yours? Jingqing roared. Why should I, your father, give up my life for those ants? Who do they think they are? Who do you think you are? The plains are all destroyed. Those ants have a place to live. This place is gone. It should die with them. So what if the sea of law is destroyed? I'll live as long as I can. So what if I'm destroyed with the sea of law? Can these ants bear to let me die to help others? They died in the blink of an eye. What qualifications do they have to make me sacrifice? I have no love or responsibility for them. Grand Elder, what's the point of living for so long? Your life has meaning. It's not about being yourself, and there's no joy. Can you not fucking be moved by yourself? Do you think you're so great? You created a toy-like organization. You're too bored. Now you want to extend your life to continue this boredom. You're sick. The Grand Elder's expression didn't change. That's it. Fuse with your body. Jing Qing was furious. What if I don't? What if I choose to die? Then I'll watch you die. Since you don't want to, then it's fine to die like this. Jing Qing laughed. Grand Elder, you're so disgusting. The Grand Elder nodded. I'm quite disgusted. I let you soak in the law of nothingness not only because I'm bored, but also because the sea of law is about to collapse. Even if you can't form the sea of law, at least you'll die before me. I'll feel at ease. Jing Qing, fuck, I know you've always disliked me. Either you die now or you fuse with your body. Jing Qing, what if I don't choose either? The body behind Jing Qing began to explode. I choose to destroy my body. Jing Qing laughed. His laughter was quite carefree. It was as if doing this would make the other party's plan fail. He could see the other party pounding his chest and stamping his feet. The Grand Elder didn't stop him. He just watched Jing Qing's body collapse indifferently and said, from now on, your body no longer needs the nourishment and power of the Sea of Law. This is also a good thing. It's a good thing for the Sea of Law. Thank you. I seem to be able to live for a few million more years. The Grand Elder actually laughed. The white lenses covered his eyes. Jing Qing paused. He immediately stopped collapsing his body. No matter what he did, the Grand Elder would take advantage of him. Fuck you. Jing Qing, I choose to die with you. The Grand Elder grabbed Jing Qing's neck and directly pressed Jing Qing's soul into the huge body. Jing Qing struggled and refused to fuse with the body. However, he was pressed down by the Grand Elder, and his soul fused with the body. /BK, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.